It's 5 o'clock. I'd like to welcome everyone to Town of Shenango Town Board meeting, April 16th. Would you join me in a pledge of allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You don't want to get there? Okay. All right. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Warden.
Here.
Mr. Simonis. Here. Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Hulbert. Here. Mr. Lumsden.
Here. Mr. Clerk, communications, please.
Yes, I have a couple. I have a letter of resignation that I'll read for the record. To whom it may concern, I'm submitting my resignation from the Town of Shenango Ordinance Office effective immediately. Respectfully, Gavin Stiles. And I would just like to give the board a heads up that I'm on the agenda later for hiring of a deputy clerk. And if all goes well, perhaps Nate could write a hiring resolution for that.
Adam, you might want to raise your thing. I can barely hear you.
Okay. Should I repeat that?
Yeah, I couldn't hear you.
Okay. And I read Gavin's letter, and I'd like to give the board a heads up that I'm on the agenda later for the hiring of a deputy town clerk. And if all goes okay, then perhaps Nate could write a hiring resolution for that. That's all.
Okay. Anything else? That's it? Okay. Open forum. Guests shall speak in an orderly fashion, are limited to remarks of 5 minutes or less. The speaker shall deliver their comments or concerns in a civil tone and without the use of profanity or personal attacks or other disruptive behavior. The speaker shall not be interrupted except in a matter of urgency. Would anyone care to speak tonight? Yes, okay. I wasn't sure what you were doing with your hand. Okay, go ahead.
Can I do it from here?
We would like you to speak on the speaker because otherwise the people viewing it cannot hear you. So you can either stand there or at the thing, if you wouldn't mind. Okay.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
I'm just taking my
No,
name's Elaine
no.
Pierce. Okay. Speaking of the live stream, I was on it today checking different ones, just so that you're aware of how it's working. There's a lot that you can't hear. I don't know if
Yeah.
that can be fixed or not, but I'm just letting you know. And this is the only meeting that is streamed, correct?
For right now, yes.
Okay.
Because we're trying to work the kinks out.
Okay. So, I just have a little thing here. Monday night, my husband and I were at a planning board meeting. We heard from our neighbors that there was going to be a public hearing. And during the discussions between the board members, one of the board members said to the people who were there, the notice is only in the legal section of the newspaper. Do I have to explain it again? So I took that as obviously this question has come up several times. So after the meeting, my husband and I looked over the town's website and we finally found the posting of the public hearing. However, it was dated 2024, or at least I'm assuming that's what the first 4 digits are of that. So that's why we had overlooked it. And as we know, New York State requires the notices to be in the newspaper, and we all know about our local newspaper and who does get it and who doesn't get it. So, and I know you have to do it in the newspaper, which is fine. However, I want to thank the board for putting theirs notices on the main page under the heading News and Announcements, which I'm sure you've all seen. That looks like this. So you can see them all when you open the page. Okay? It's really nice. So I'm thinking, why not have a standard practice for all the town boards to post their public hearing notices on the main page? It's front and center, it's public, you want to be transparent for the people in the community. And why not make it easier for us to find information instead of constantly digging around in a website that we all know is difficult to maneuver.
Yep.
So, that being said, and being the town's motto is by the community and for the community, please consider this for the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, hearing none, we're gonna move on with our agenda. Old business, 5.1, DPW hiring. Mr. Burden.
As we're aware, I do have an opening in the department. As we spoke last time, I'm looking for more than just a laborer. Doing some research, I found a couple titles that seemed interesting to me. The one that really stood out that I'm really interested in is the assistant water and wastewater superintendent. In my letter that I provided to you, it touches on a few things that we don't have currently today, other than myself, that this would allow, give us. I know it's a great ask to the town. There is a cost involved in adding this position to the department, but in my eyes, I feel it's really needed. That's something the town's not interested in looking at. There's a crew leader title, similar to what the highway has, or is the same. That's the second option. But my first ask is really looking at the assistant water and wastewater superintendent position. Also attached was the labor burden between a laborer, which was, that's what the position was, versus the assistant position. Unfortunately, when I looked at this online, she had the same salaries in it for both positions. So under the laborer, it should have been $21.01 compared to $31.25. So there was a discrepancy there.
Any questions? Board?
I've got a couple. Greg, just as far as like, the ask and the department structure, what we've, as the board has been given in the past is like, an organizational chart of how you want the department staffed and what the budgets are that are associated with those staffing changes. So I'm not looking at your ask of what the board wants. I want you to know that my opinion is that I want to know what you want your department to be for the best for the town. So that's what I would want to see is I would want to see how you want the department filled out, how you're going to utilize it's the assistant.
Assistant, water and sewer superintendent.
Yep.
We'd like to see a flow chart of how the department, I think Donnie provided one back in the day before he left. Something similar to that.
Yeah, there were a few of them, and I can regenerate that for you if you don't have it handy.
Sure.
But it's not just the organizational chart, but I'd like to know where you're separating out the duties and what this person's gonna do, be responsible for, and how it affects how you see the department running. I'm much more interested in seeing your plan than you asking the board what we want, because you've gotta run the department and do the day-to-day stuff. Okay. Is that, okay, do you need me to send you that org chart as a reference?
If you don't mind.
I don't mind at all.
In case I can't find it.
Nope.
Yep.
Okay.
Chris, Dave, Kevin, Jay? question?
I would like to see exactly what Gene's, but I'd like to, you either pick,
Bless you.
you want them to union, non-union, you know, I think you need to let us know what, I mean, I can't make that decision on the,
Right, and in the letter, it did state a little bit that was my choice. This would be my first choice, would be the non-union position. That way we can eliminate, Mike being the second call if I'm unavailable, for emergency situations.
okay.
Then we can eliminate that. We can eliminate several things that I've seen over the years that it just doesn't happen.
Okay.
So, okay.
Greg, and I agree with what was said. The thing is, when I read this, it looked like there was almost 3 positions that we've been discussing. A laborer, a crew chief, and a water assistant, superintendent assistant. Does the water superintendent assistant cross over to any of those other ones, or do we still have a broader issue here? So I think the organizational chart will shed a lot of light to that.
Okay, thank you.
I just went offline.
I just have a question about, you said that the assistant, by being non-union, they wouldn't be available for weekend rotations?
No, I don't believe they can do it.
Only union people can?
It would be more of a Nate question, but I'm pretty sure they can't take work away from the.
But if they're not available to go, like, you would go, right, if none of them can go work on the weekends?
None of them can go, then we would have to go. Yeah. I just wouldn't schedule this person on a weekend on-call rotation.
This is it's a union thing, huh?
Yeah, but I mean, so Greg, what you'd probably do is you'd switch off with that person for responsibility to oversee any emergencies that happen on the weekend, right? So like, to Greg's point, the weekend on-call person, there's only one. So we wouldn't be able to swap or slot in a non-union person to fill that role. But if that person ever needs assistance, that can be anybody.
Like in
So-
a confined space?
Yeah, like in a confined space, if
Okay.
they need a second person, then it's up to Greg or this person to decide, is Greg or this person showing up, or do they call in another union person? So the extra people could be this guy or this person or Greg.
Okay.
Kevin, did you have something?
I already-
You did, yeah, I didn't know if you had something else, Jay.
Greg, the one thing that I do wanna also kind of run to ground is what the cost of this position is gonna do and how you're gonna address that in the budget.
I mean, we could use, I do have, reserve fund, we could transfer over to offset the budget difference. There is still money left in there for the labor position. With labor burden sheets, there's roughly a $20,000 difference between one and the other. So we would have to transfer over from our fund balance.
So as a 2026 budget issue, you don't see this as a problem?
I don't see it as a problem. We would probably look at increasing rates, so we wouldn't run into any issues, I would assume.
Okay. All right. So just if you could throw that all into this, and timeframe.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
You'd like to, do you think you can get that stuff together for a next meeting or 2 meetings out, or would you
Yeah,
like to
we'll
be
get
put
on to the next
on?
one, and if for some reason I can't, I'll let you know, but I don't see why I can't.
Okay.
Okay, anything else from anyone? David? Okay, thank you, Greg. We're gonna move on, 5.2, wastewater treatment plant update. Greg?
Other than what B&L sent, one other thing, I was speaking to the inspector today. They ran into an issue at the Valvoline lift station, digging. They found some contaminated soil. They have reached out, touched base with B&L, so I'm waiting to hear back with B&L as to what the town's next steps are at that particular lift station. Other than what's there, that's the only other updates I have.
Who's the inspector?
His name is Antoine, I don't know what his last name
What,
is.
who does he work for?
Bartlett Judas?
He's a B&L employee?
B&L Group.
You mean he was digging down in the soil to check the foundations and,
The contractors were digging at Valvoline and Sonoil, putting in the pillars and stuff for the stanchions and stuff. And they found some contaminated soil next to our electrical panel. So they halted, called in the inspector, then they contacted B&L from there. This was just 2 days ago, so I don't know any updates other than that.
Kevin?
It's never ending.
Gene, do you have anything?
Just keep the board copied on like anything that has to do with the contamination, in your reports or something. and because you'll have to trace back where that contamination came from. That'll have to all be in the process. Is there any idea of what the contamination is?
They're assuming it's oil from the oil change place right there,
Mm-hmm.
because there is a oil water separator at the parking lot. That's what they're thinking.
Okay.
The Valvoline stated that the oil and water separator has been decommissioned. When that was, I don't know yet. I mean, Tom could give me that information. I can't.
Gene, wouldn't that be something the DEC would even have if it's been decommissioned?
Yeah, it would be a class 5 closure, injection well issue, if it was done that way.
But shouldn't that be public information?
Yep.
I'm hoping that I'm waiting to hear back from the engineers to see if they can have any of that information.
Okay.
You good?
There was some correspondence, just as far as like the update to the project, that Gleason had sent out about the piers, and do you have anything to add to, which ones are gonna be recast, which ones were rejected?
What you've seen is what I've seen.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any more information from her. I heard she's on vacation, so.
And I think the email stated, her or Jesse was, and they were gonna evaluate it to give us some kind of idea.
They had their structural engineer looking at it. They felt that the holes were fine for the depth, if I read that correctly. Some of the appearances to the front could be resurfaced, but there are some that they think need to be changed out.
Right, yeah, that's why I was just curious which ones they were. and
But
the
they
timeframe.
didn't tell us that
They
yet.
didn't identify exactly which ones yet,
Right.
but the workmanship is questionable.
Right.
Okay,
As soon as I have one,
The way I read it, they're gonna give us their findings and
Yes.
a report on it.
That's the way I read it as well,
Okay.
I guess.
Now, is the report that they're providing, what you're still looking for, B&L, the monthly report? Is there anything that I should be asking them to add to it?
Special inspections.
Special inspection.
Yeah.
I'm sure they must have done something on concrete and including the welds. They had mentioned that Atlantic had been employed to do that.
Anything else, gentlemen?
I have nothing.
David?
I'm
Good?
okay.
All right, we're gonna move on. 6.1, public hearing, there is none tonight, so we're gonna move on to the new business. 7.1, Hyder Park, internet installation for security cameras. Mr. Burden.
After dealing with Time Warner Cable, we don't even really deal with Time Warner Cable, we deal with a third-party vendor, from what I'm finding out, through Time Warner Cable. It's a minimum of $200 a month to provide proper service there. I just don't think it's needed. I haven't seen enough damage at the park in years to spend $2,400 a year on internet service. I just don't feel there's a need for it there, for that price. So my recommendation is not to spend the money on that.
Okay,
Questions? David? Good? All right, thank you, Greg.
thanks for running that to ground.
Yep. Excuse me. We're gonna move on to 7.2, the Fire District Number 1 budget discussion. Sir, would you come on up?
Hello again, I'm Steve Oberhaus, I'm the president of the Shenango Bridge Fire Company. I provided you guys some information, I'm not gonna read through it all, but, basically, we're a private-owned company, Shenango Bridge area. We have 2 stations, 5 large apparatus, 3 small. We have 64 members now. Last year or so, we've obtained 7 new members, 4 of which have gone through other training and that are now interior firefighters. So that's a real good plus for our community and something we're real happy about. One of the things we're doing now is trying to develop a longer-term sustainment budget. I provided some financials, or rough financials, don't take them, for verbatim, because there's some changes to be made as we go forward probably. But the big thing is, in the last several years, we have not bought any new apparatus, any new fire trucks or anything. We've also not done any major capital improvements. Last year, we got hit with leaking roof, so we had to go replace the roof. In doing so, we found that the reason we had to replace it is because it wasn't a real good design. It didn't get the airflow it needed, so it didn't meet its life expectancy. So we made some changes to our facades and that, increase the airflow. So it's a little bit more expensive than, what we had been planning for and hoping for. We originally were planning to replace the roof probably in 2030. So, that was a big expense too, that's hit us. So as we're putting our sustainment budget together, we're finding that, we're gonna run out of money. This year, we're probably at about a break-even point. The following years, we're gonna be short on money. We currently have a truck right now out that's being, getting a major overhaul, and that'll give us a life extension on that truck. It's not a refurbishment, so it's not gonna be a 25-year truck. As I indicated here, these large trucks should last about 25 years. So that's what we're trying to plan for as we're looking at our sustainment budget. So we wanna replace a large truck every 25 years. And we got 5 trucks, so it means every 5 years we need to replace a truck. Trucks are over $1 million right now. So it tells you, you gotta start saving up ahead of time. So that's kinda what we're looking at. So in doing so, we're gonna need more funding to do that. Right now, the funding we get from the town, town is our major funding source, okay? As I identified a few other sources, we get grants, donations, but they don't amount to a lot. So it really comes down to the town funding that we get. So what I'm doing tonight is starting to lay the groundwork. Come this fall, we're gonna ask for more than what we've been getting. It'll be above a 2% increase. So I need help to understand what the process is, if we need to go out to the residents to get that funding, or what other options do we might have as we're trying to build our sustainable budget going forward. We are spending more time trying to apply for grants, but generally grants are smaller. You don't get a whole new truck in a grant, so that's kind of where we are. Is there any questions, any more detail people want from what I provided?
Steve, do you have any funds right now on your balance sheet that could be expended for capital in the future? Or, you said you're gonna be even this year. Does that
No.
empty you right out?
So at the end of this year, assuming we don't have any major issues, we should be just about even, about at zero. We have one truck now, as I mentioned, that's getting a life extension, and that cost is gonna come back. I think we owe about $348,000 on that one. We have the rescue truck. It's slated to go out later this year. We were looking at a new truck, ordered one, came back 1.2 million. So we changed courses. We have a new chassis on order, which is 126K. That should be here in the middle of the year. And we're just gonna take the box off of the current one and put it on the new chassis. So that'll be about 480K for that. So
But you have all those expenditures covered for this year.
for this year, we should be okay for the balance of this year.
What do you think that gives you extension on the life of those trucks?
Well, so we're looking at the rescue now, we're putting a new chassis under it, so we're gonna count that as 25 years from now, or once we get it back. And that conforms to the NFPA standard, which is 25 years for large trucks.
So do you guys typically, when you set up a budget or you're doing any type of fundraising for revenues, you always try to save some for future capital? Is that what you're saying? Or
Well,
are you,
we're gonna try
and
to.
you at zero every year?
No, we try to save up. And I mean, in the previous years, we've been saving up. I mean, we have a budget now, or a balance now of, 600, close to 600K. But for what we have already committed for this year, we're gonna deplete that. And we still have to pay for the balance of the roofing project, and we, like I mentioned, the 2 trucks.
Roofing project was at what station?
Station 1.
Station 1?
Down in Catelville,
You can tell.
Red and White.
I got a couple questions
Go ahead.
if you guys don't mind.
Go right on.
Okay. You put down here you have 471 calls.
On average a year, yeah.
Well, how many of them are fire calls and how many of them are EMS calls, roughly? I mean, because I didn't see that.
I don't have that breakdown here.
Okay,
Um,
can you get that for us?
yeah, now, you have, fire calls can also be, alarms, faulty alarms going off, CO alarms, that kind of stuff.
Well, you're saying 400, I was just trying to get
Yeah.
a feel for what your calls were.
Okay, I
Okay.
get that breakdown.
All right, well, that's okay, I got a couple more questions. So, on your sheet here for 2024, why does it state that you, 325,436 that you got from the town of Shenango? That was with that mistake where it was actually into you guys for 352, so unless you are gonna agree to give us back that 26,562.11, it doesn't reflect,
That should be the 352, that should say 352.
Okay, all right, well, it didn't, so that's why I was questioning what was happening there.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so, thank you for that.
And the other piece on this, on 24 there, I showed zeros for several of the things there. That's because we haven't rolled everything up yet.
Where are you now?
When you look at the finance piece of it, you saw the 325, or the
Yeah.
352 underneath there, for like fundraising,
Well,
interest and that, I have zeros.
Well, that was my next question, why
So-
does it show 0 for fundraising?
Because I don't have that data yet.
Okay, all right,
Okay, our treasurer's been doing
Okay.
taxes, and
okay.
so we're behind.
Then I noticed you have interest income,
Yes,
you put that down as 0, that can't.
no, that
Even if
won't-
it's a
that won't be
small
zero.
amount, you should
Right.
show it to us.
Yeah, I will. We'll
Okay,
update it. I just
okay.
don't have that right now.
All right,
That's
the
one
other
thing.
thing, donations, I don't see where you reflect the ARPA money that the board, town of Shenango gave you of 29,258.68. I don't see that reflected here.
That was in 24, Mike?
Yes, at the end of 24.
Probably 24.
I'm just,
Nope.
these are just,
Good points.
okay,
Like I said, 24 is still in the process of being put together, our financials.
okay. Well, I'd like to see some of that. Those were my questions, gentlemen.
But you've got that accounted in for what your expenditures are gonna be?
For this year,
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Going forward, have you looked into any cost-saving measures, like consolidation?
So we have not dug into consolidation. We'll look at it somewhat. Off the top, I don't think it's gonna be a big help because you're still gonna need the fire stations, you're gonna need the fire trucks. And those are the big expenses.
Even two stations? Station Two's a very old station.
But to serve that area, I think it's, otherwise you're gonna leave a lot of people out that way without close service.
Well, you still,
Something needs to be looked at, but
I mean, I know Shenango did, and they did very well with it when they closed stations, consolidated to one. And they haven't come to us with problems like this. So I would really like to see you to look into that.
Yep.
You need to look into some cost-saving measures.
Yeah, we did get our fire rating last year. We were at 3. We were very close to a 2. Once we had to take care of some of the cleaning of the fire hydrants and that, we can make a 2. We would have been a 2, so we're very close to being a top-notch
You're saying an ISO
fire
rating?
company. Yeah,
That would be in your hydrant district. Outside your hydrant district, you're still, what, a 9? I don't believe you can be higher than that.
I was told we were 3 across the board. I don't know.
Okay.
That's what I got from the chief.
Gene, David, any questions?
Well, I think it's gonna be a hard sell for $500,000. I know, I appreciate what you do. I have a fire, I'm gonna call somebody, and I hope it's somebody like you who's gonna show up. But I just don't know if we have the dollars for what you need. So I'm not telling you anything, I'm just telling you, it's gonna be a hard choice.
Yep. Understand. That's why we're starting early.
Appreciate that. Mr. Holbert?
I don't see any escalation in a lot of these.
Right, I didn't put escalation in here.
Okay, I just don't want it to be overlooked.
Yep.
So, and the disparity between the 24 budget to the 25 budget, there's quite a bit of increase in those numbers. So what's the 30% increase in the chief's budget and the operating costs, or I'm sorry, just the operating costs, expenses that went from 100,000 to 130,000, and that's just duplicated. Why is that the same number when the building grounds maintenance, fuel, insurances?
Okay, so you're going from the 23 to 24 budget?
No, 24, the 24 to 25, there was a 30% increase, and I know we're in the 25, but that's carrying through.
Well, the chief's budget, we went down to 104 annually. We were 130 in 24, and that's because of the maintenance we had to do on the trucks.
Mhm.
We got significant maintenance we were doing on trucks. So the chief budget, actually, we're projecting lower going forward.
But
The operating budget,
it was the operating budget that went from 98 to
90,
129, 130.
there was a couple drivers on that. One of the ones is our bookkeepers. I should say bookkeepers, the finance. We were paying roughly, I'm gonna be close on numbers, hopefully 8,000, now we're paying 20,000. So they significantly increased what we're paying for our auditors, is one area.
Did I hear you right? You went from 8 to 20,000
Yeah,
on the auditor?
yep. Those ballpark numbers. I mean, it's significant. Our insurance bills have gone up significantly. The state's now come back and required us to pay, I think it's like, in the ballpark of 20,000 a year, we're paying more for insurance. So those prices have gone up.
And you can provide the detail on what is gonna be, what's totaling those
Yes.
dollars in the capital improvements?
Yes. And we're refining that now. I mean, it's, we've got some estimates for replacing a parking lot in, I don't know, 2035, maybe 2032, somewhere in there.
Mhm.
So we have estimates that we're putting into our sustainment plan at this point, that we've gotten from contractors and that, but.
So are those allocated then to specific, like, line items that can't be used for something else?
We have not set that up yet, no.
But that would be the intent.
We'll be looking at doing something like that, in particular for the big apparatuses, capital improvements, yes.
And for the large apparatus replacements and the large capital improvements, that's, these are like buyout numbers. You'd have to raise the money to pay for them. Have you looked at other options of, with bonds and long-term financing to carry those over?
We've actually talked to a banker last week, so we are looking at potentially getting funding in that. We're still gonna have to pay that, so it's still gonna be an increase. Now you're paying a loan. You can start getting money up front, pay when it's due, or you can pay on afterward with interest. So, right now, we're just saying,
Right, but
let's pay
Steve,
for it when we get there.
where I think Gene's going here is clearly the projected 5 years, you've got a cash flow issue, right? And so.
I'm gonna have a cash flow issue next year.
Yeah, and there's no question about it, but instead of paying for it all up front
Right.
and making that look worse, maybe carrying that out isn't a bad idea at all,
That could
because
be.
there are a lot of
Yep.
things here in this budget that have significant increases, and I'm assuming they're from capital expenditures, but, you're not gonna be able to go, so up and down like this in the projection that you have for those 5 years. I don't think that's sustainable.
Well, that's why I think, that's one of the things we can do is, if you start, borrowing money now, you're gonna be paying that interest.
Well,
That's just gonna lever things up yearly.
Yeah, look,
Well,
there's no question about that, but
No.
I think for the increase that you're trying to take for the next 5 years, I mean, that's pretty dramatic.
Yes,
You
I
know,
don't disagree.
I agree with Mr. Johnson. I think that's gonna be a real hard sell.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of you guys, cause I think that the town benefits a great deal from our fire departments. And it's reflected in our fire insurance rates at our homes.
Right.
So, you guys do a great job with that, and certainly I would be an ally to help, but this is a pretty big ask, and I think there's a lot of information still missing that,
Right.
you know, I understand you're early in the process here, but to provide more and kind of have some substantial information there to some of those budgets that have jumped up here 30% from year to year, you know, it's a pretty big ask.
Yep. So, I mean, that's one of the things to do. And so you're looking for more detail possibly. How do you want to do that? Do you want to do it in this forum every month? Or do we want to have a smaller group? Or how would you guys want to do this?
What do you guys typically do in the past?
It's never been an ask of this magnitude.
That's a-
And so in the past, it has been presenting a budget request in the August, September timeframe.
I think we'd need a little more detail.
Right, I'm just giving you
Yeah.
what's done, so things coming in April, do it in front of us.
Yeah.
I don't see the benefit of like setting up a board committee to go
No.
through it
No.
and then,
Get some of the questions,
Okay.
information and come back, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Nate, I wanna ask you a question. We don't have one district, fire district, so that increase is paid by the users inside of that district?
Inside the fire protection districts, yeah. So wherever you contract to provide service with them, those folks in that geographic area have to pay the increased costs.
For being in the fire district?
But yeah, it's called a fire protection district.
Fire, okay.
Yep. Mike, one thought I had, you know, you asked the question of how many of these are EMS calls versus fire.
Right,
So fire companies can bill now for BLS services. Are you folks eligible in doing that?
Not aware.
There's a first response unit, they're not a transporting unit.
Yeah, so that, I mean, I'm not
So
sure
they
if we can
can't?
bill if
I
we
don't
don't
believe they can,
transport,
their first response, not transport.
but not transport. Okay.
I was gonna say, I don't
So they
think we
can't
can,
charge.
so.
Probably can't
I
charge
don't
for
see
that.
why you would be able to charge.
I-
You're usually charging for a transport to
transport,
a
okay.
Yeah.
facility.
Okay.
There's not a fee for the call then?
Right, okay. And then typically for like a fire vehicle, you could spread those costs out over like almost 20 years. So.
To that,
Yeah, so I mean, they could take a loan out. I think it was Shenango Fire Company did that, I don't know, a year or two ago, because they get contracted for services in Shenango and Barker. And so the towns held public hearings on that and authorized the company to go get a loan.
I believe they did that on the last two engines you bought.
Well, the tanker truck we have, we're paying off that loan this year.
But before that, the two engines that were purchased at the
In
same
2001
time.
probably, yeah.
they
and
were-
that requires a public hearing?
Yeah, a public hearing's supposed to be held. It can be held by by either the fire company or
okay.
the towns directly. But anyway, I mean, it's spreading those payments out, not doing it all in one lump sum or building up a reserve over the course of 2 or 3 years. You could probably do the same with any capital improvements like the parking lot. I mean, Jay was talking about basically doing that.
Exactly.
Yes, they can definitely do that.
Okay.
Yeah, if we go the loan route, though, I think we'll be asking above the 2%, at the end of this year in order for sustainment, so.
Any more questions?
No, just as long as there's more detail, why that jump is happening that year, what you're gonna purchase that year, just makes more sense.
Okay.
Okay,
And
Mr. Albert?
I'm just really concerned about what your plan is between the 27 and 28 year, because you're going from a negative 500,000 to a negative 1.5 million.
So.
So just
2028, we're purchasing it, that'd be purchasing a new fire truck at $1 million.
No, and I can see that in the numbers, but that's a concern as it was presented with just a one-time purchase and the deficit, so that's gotta be part of the planning. there, is to come back in a month reasonable to you to get that information? Okay.
So we'll talk about
Yeah.
putting that, we'll see what our future, at the end of the meeting, where we can put them in.
Do I need to request for it to be on the agenda again, or do we? is
So
this it?
we're gonna talk about it then and see where we are, and we'll try to put you in within a month
Okay,
on agenda, and then we'll let you know.
okay,
We'll talk about that later in the, we gotta see what else is on our plate,
okay.
okay?
So we probably won't be ready before the end of April.
No, this
No,
would be probably in May sometime,
I mean, some-
Middle of
okay,
May.
Okay,
okay?
sounds good to me.
All right, thank you.
Yep, thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, 7.3, Deputy Town Clerk hiring letter of recommendation. Mr. Clerk,
Okay, you can see I have my,
please speak up.
okay, you can see that I have my letter of recommendation posted, as well as the candidate's resume and application. I'll read my letter for the record to the town board. I'd like to formally recommend a candidate for the position of part-time deputy clerk at a rate of $19 an hour from budget line A 1410.111, deputy part-time personnel services. They were interviewed by DPW Superintendent Burden and myself. I feel they are well qualified for the position and will suit the needs of the clerk's office. Thank you for your consideration. And are there any questions?
How many interviews did you do?
I think I did 10.
How many hours a week is this?
19 and a half.
19 and a half, okay.
I did offer the job to the candidate for full-time, but they turned it down. And I had another candidate who I really liked, but I didn't realize until after the interview that they are just over the border in Fenton. So I'm still considering a full-time, but right now I just wanted to get somebody in, and I felt this candidate was quite well qualified.
But not a full-time in addition to this half?
Pardon me?
Not a full-time in addition to this half?
What do you mean?
What Gene is saying, not two positions, a full-time and a part-time going forward. Are you still looking for another full-time clerk?
Well, I am budgeted for it.
Okay. Are you budgeted for a full-time and a
full-time
part-time?
and a part-time.
You
yes,
are.
yes.
Okay, so the answer to that question, Gene, is yes.
What are the hours that this person is gonna work as far as daily?
They currently have a job, but it's dependent on the school year. So we've talked about Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, depending on his schedule, but come summertime, their schedule frees up more.
They're gonna work Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, is that what you said? I'm having a hard time hearing you, so please
Okay,
speak up.
yes.
Okay.
What would be the hours that they work for those 3 days?
Well, I haven't done the math,
Well,
but
Got a
if it were-
little over 6 hours a day if they're equaling it out, right? So, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 19 hours, 19 and a half, you said, so, you know, basically they're working 6.5 hours a day.
Correct.
But that would be your plan, is to keep it uniform?
That will be the plan. Like I said, I don't fully know what their schedule is at this point in the year.
What does that mean?
They currently have a job in, with a school district. So their schedule is a little more complicated this time of the year until the school year ends.
But if I read that correctly, Adam, it's a part-time job, so they really never know. They don't really have a planned schedule.
Yeah, according to the candidate, their schedule is largely dictated by them.
Yeah, that's okay.
So what's your plan for keeping consistency of having the office open for when people coming in getting their handicap stickers if you can't? I mean, what's your schedule gonna be? Are you gonna make sure you're there when this person isn't to keep
Coverage
the
is
office
important.
open?
Coverage is important.
Well, I'm asking what your plan is.
Well, I'd like to reopen it for lunch, you know. I'm there all day, every day except for lunch. And that's a big part of getting another person in here is to make coverage more uniform.
I'm just trying to understand what that schedule is. Having both of you in there one day and then there's a day that there's a shortage doesn't, you
And
know,
what's your schedule every day?
8 until 11:30, then 12:30 until 4, and the office is open from 9 until 3,
And that's Monday through Friday?
Monday through Friday.
And that you have no plans in changing?
No.
So then the second person
But-
is gonna come in and supplement and be there to cover the hour that's on lunch?
That's the plan, yep, yes, sir.
You're still advertising for a full-time position as well?
what's the need for another full-time position in there?
Better coverage, you know, the proverbial bus.
The river, what?
The proverbial bus. And I just want to get an employee in there, and we can go from there. Candidates' applications have slowed down, so we'll just hopefully get this candidate in there and go from there.
Well, maybe the board members that have been on here longer than me, I believe those positions of having the clerk, a full-time deputy clerk, and a part-time clerk was because we were transitioning from the clerk that we had to get coverage. I don't know if it was ever the intent of the board to hold 3 people in that position permanently. And I personally don't see the need for that. So whether you have the clerk in a full-time position, I see that, like what the town had for many, many years. The reason why they went to the 3rd person at the time was because our clerk of many years was retiring. And I don't know what the intent is, but protecting the taxpayers, I don't see the justification for 3 people in that office.
This is what I've been budgeted for. And this is
I'm
what
just
working
making my point that, I'm just making my
I
case.
had also considered possibly if I bring in another employee, having them be a part-time too.
Yeah, so, Adam, just the last comment that I got on the staffing issue, I don't have an objection to this half-time person. I'm a little concerned about your presentation of it as just trying to fill a body and then not be permanent, but that's for you to deal with. But my concern with going forward is that the budget you're talking about is for 2025. I am gonna substantiate Mike's concern because that budget issue was established for the 2025 year only. It's never been my expectation, or do I see a need for 3 people in there. So, I want you to know that that's my position going forward. Whatever you do with an increase over your time and time and a half, I would expect that you would do an employee staff evaluation to justify any increase to that. So that's just in the future, and that's what I would want. And for 2026, we would be having to know that from you to create the budget for 2026.
Okay.
Anyone else got any questions?
I'm viewing this part-time person as almost an interim step to a full-time. I mean, I'd like to see 2 full-time positions, at least somebody that you can count on to maintain the consistency of the hours, right?
I agree.
And right now, this part-time person appears to me to be a bit of a stopgap measure because his hours aren't, we don't know from week to week if they'll be available
Right.
to cover the lunch.
Right.
So maybe they will, maybe they won't, but to me, it's an interim step, and I would agree. I'd much rather see another full-time person here and eliminate that part-time position.
I would agree. part of my decision is that this candidate is, like I said.
Sure.
They were probably the most well-qualified.
And I think for
out of anybody.
2025, that's fine, but I think going forward, you know, if we can still advertise for that full-time position, find someone qualified for that, so, or if it's part-time people, to manage some form of consistency there, so we have the coverages, what is it, 8 to 4 or 8 to 3?
The
9
office
to
hours
3.
are 9 to 3.
9 to 3.
But I am in the office from 8 until 4.
Right, but that hour in between, there's a lot of folks that'll be coming in here looking for the clerk and during their lunchtime, and I think having that coverage is important.
I agree.
Right, and if you're gonna have a part-time and you can't tell, this person can't give you a commitment, I'm gonna be here always on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I'm making those days up. And if something else is controlling when they're gonna be here, it's hard for you to count on that, so that means you gotta pick up that slack. So I'm just making you clear,
Yep.
aware of that.
Well, like I said, they have reassured me that they can dictate their schedule at this point.
They can dictate it?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, that's different than what
Yeah,
I understood.
right.
Yeah, I
different
get
than
it.
what I understood,
Yeah,
too.
I misunderstood that
That's
I
right.
too.
apologize. Yep.
No, I thought it was, they were getting dictated at their
Yes.
other job.
And when the
No.
summer came, they had
Yes.
better flexibility to be more consistent, right?
Yes.
So I misunderstood. I thought the
did too.
same thing.
I apologize.
All right, well,
Mr. Warden,
I'm good.
you good? David?
Well, if the guy's a substitute teacher, I don't know how he can control his schedule.
He just doesn't substitute.
he just doesn't take the call.
Yeah, you say no.
Doesn't
Okay.
take the call
If
that
he
morning.
does- That's fine, if that's what he does, but
Unless they take a long-term sub, that's how it's a day-to-day thing.
okay.
Um,
Okay.
But I think that we should be following our past policy and practice on these hirings and get the resolution for next meeting.
Okay.
To go through that, we've had the discussion and then, and
Right.
put the resolution for the next meeting and not get out of our practice.
Okay.
I just drafted it. No, so it's ready to go.
It's ready to go for next
It's ready to
meeting's
go for next
agenda.
meeting. I just need the name. And I'll shoot it over to Adam.
The application name that was Timothy, F as in Foxtrot, Heller, Heller.
Okay. So I'll email that to Adam for email right now. And then one comment I have, so Adam mentioned he interviewed a person who turns out they live in Fenton. So while that would render the person not eligible to be the deputy town clerk, I'm not sure if the town clerk's office or town board has considered hiring a non-town clerk to fill a staff support role in that office. They could do all of the paperwork, they just couldn't sign anything as a clerk.
If they're working in the clerk's office, they need to be have the capacity to do the clerk's job. So I'm not interested in that.
You
That's
were
my
just
opinion.
saying, you were just saying they'd be like a clerical worker.
They'd be a clerical
They wouldn't
worker.
have the, what good does that do us? We
They could,
need,
they could functionally and practically do almost all of the paperwork that needs to be done. It's just to the extent that the deputy town clerk, or excuse me, the town clerk has to actually physically sign something, they wouldn't be able to sign it.
but how does that help us if we get that infamous bus?
Oh,
That's the
yeah,
whole
you'd-
point-
you'd-
That's
you
the whole
would- you
point
would
of
still
having a
have that
deputy
issue.
clerk inside of your town, so that if something happens, you do have someone to sign.
Yep,
Like
you would still have that issue, but there are towns who have.
I have no purpose,
Yeah,
I personally don't have no desire to do
Okay.
that.
I can say that Renee, I have kept her on as a registrar, so she is able to sign some of the more important things, like death certificates.
That's good?
Yeah, I mean, doesn't have to be the town clerk to hold, every single position.
Oh,
It's just an option if you found yourself short of a body and you needed somebody to do things. Again, you don't have to, and there's many reasons, as you pointed out, not to. I'm just trying to make you
no, I
all
mean,
aware of
if
the
it
options.
doesn't, if it isn't an issue, I mean, board, what's your thoughts here?
I didn't even prepare for the conversation, so I don't
Oh.
want to address it.
Okay,
And I have no interest in hiring a clerk, a deputy
No.
position for
don't
somebody
need it.
that's outside town.
We don't need it. Okay. So we'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting and we'll get the resolution.
Yep.
Good?
Yep.
Mr. Young, I
Yes.
couldn't see you there. All right, we're gonna move on. Dog control report, everyone see that? Joel's not here. Is there anything that anyone has issue with?
I don't have any questions on it.
Okay, anyone?
I'm good.
Good? Okay. Flip my sheet over, ordinance report. Any questions about the ordinance report? But I would like, why we don't have, I would like to know when the board would like to talk about the issue that we have in the ordinance. You wanna do that later, or do you wanna use this time to talk about that issue?
Later.
Okay.
I think we should, yeah, we should go.
Okay. I'm just asking. Can we move on from that, gentlemen?
Please.
Yep.
Gene?
Yes,
I didn't hear you.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, all right, 8.3, highway. Mr. Crock.
All right, so we've been out, obviously the report's there, you guys see that. A lot of snow removal in the first quarter of the year, still doing it. Hopefully we're done. Did a bunch of road repairs, a lot of catch basin stuff, pipes, trees, hauled some sand still. Removed some trees, did a lot of our sweeping for the first time around. So we're all getting there. Mailboxes are fixed and all our yard damage is hopefully done for as much as we can do at this point. Moving forward. Did some water breaks. Last week we helped the water department with an operator, a truck driver, and myself was there. I would just want to commend those guys. They did a great job that night, getting the things taken care of and fixed and back to working. So those guys did a great job. Couple items that I want to touch base on discussion items. The road work stuff is being scheduled. I'm trying to get as much done in May as we can. Port Road, Oak Hill, a lot of those over there. I'm trying to get those done, so some stuff. I'm working up there a bunch, getting things ready for them. All the ordered trucks that I have on order that were back, that I wasn't sure when they were coming. I just got confirmation that I should see all 3 trucks by the end of the year. So we should have 3 new in the fleet coming by hopefully October, November, ready for snow. So that's a good thing on our end. Just want everybody to know. The truck body we got ordered and is being taken care of as we speak. Still not sure on the tariff. We won't know that until it's built and comes across the border to us. So that's being done. Grant writer had started with us 2 weeks ago, literally the Thursday after the meeting with us. I got her going. She got going with everything. We got updated pricing on what the actual building will cost. She's also in the process of working on extra funding while writing this other one. So we did find out also, I did say we had till May to get the deadline. I got an extension till the end of May. So we got till the end of May to get the grant written for the DEC one.
That was
Not
the
May 1st.
WIQP or something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep. So that's a good thing. It gives her a little time to dig a little more into that. So that's good. One other one, I just want everybody to be aware and know, I have been appointed as our representative in the southern tier as our executive committee member for the town, New York State Highway Association of Towns. So I will be doing a lot of that kind of stuff. It's not gonna affect the job here, but it's gonna actually help us because it's gonna bring a lot of stuff from elsewhere into but I just want everybody to know, I had later on there's a resolution put together for it, just so the board has, so I have that in writing, just on the level for me. And I'll make that at a point to do it yearly, at our yearly one at the beginning of the year, just to continue that as long as I stay on that, just so everybody stays aware. And that is all that I have.
Any questions for
I have none.
David?
Is it a good thing you're on the board?
I don't know.
Okay.
So it's new. I was really I said no for the last couple of years on it. They really pushed me for the last couple of years. I talked to them, went through an interview process a couple of weeks ago. And my first meeting is next Thursday. So I'll tell you how it goes at the next meeting.
No?
But I'm really looking forward to it because really a lot of good stuff comes out of that.
I'll say
For us.
congratulations
Yeah,
then.
congratulations, Darren.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more? Done?
Darren, there's the third truck that was, I just wanna, because it's a discussion in the resolution, but for the $51,000,
Yes, the $51,000 was the pickup truck that we authorized to come out of my highway fund.
Yep.
Of that $652,000 that was left over, it's coming out of that,
right, so that's but we still.
separate from these other ones.
So, but just don't forget to do the paperwork for that, so that
The resolution's already been done. You authorized it, we authorized, all the paperwork's all done for that truck, because that's almost here. There's a resolution done in, when did I say, February? February 19th, we did a resolution authorizing the payment for that truck. When we accepted the bid, because it went to bid.
okay?
February 19th, I believe, was the date of that resolution. And it has all the, where it's coming from and where it's going to.
And will you recirculate that resolution to the board, because that's not in the minutes, that's there, so I didn't see it.
This is the bid from Shenango
Shenango.
Sales Inc.,
Yep.
$51,432.
What's that?
It's for $51,432, yeah, so at least I've got a draft resolution in here from February about that, which would have been on the agenda, so Adam should be able to find that.
I'm just looking at the minutes, it's not there.
And I thought I'm trying to do that off memory. I thought we talked about it and everything.
Well, let's just
We'll
dig out,
find it.
let's
We'll
dig out
find it.
that
Yep.
resolution, if we did it, we don't have,
Yep.
I don't wanna redo it,
Yep, all right, good.
because I was not expecting it to be done, so, all right.
It's 9.4 resolution on February 19th meeting.
9.4?
It was the 9.4 resolution on the 19th meeting.
Okay.
Okay. All done? Moving on, gentlemen?
Yes.
Yes.
8.4, attorney's report.
Prepared a variety of capital reserve resolutions for this evening, and then also had a fun meeting with the planning board on Monday, which I spent some time preparing for. Not sure if you folks want to blow by blow of that 3.5-hour meeting or not, but there's two solar projects, one of which is of hot interest to the public, which planning board is moving, progressing as it should appropriately. They kept the public hearing open at the last meeting. And there's, with the new wetlands guidance from DEC, and Gene, maybe you're up to speed on all that stuff too, but basically, my hot take on it is, if there's any water anywhere nearby, you should get a wetlands delineation from DEC, or, wetlands determination from DEC. And both of these projects have ponds, and of course, the ones by the river. And then the Dimmick Hill Golf Course, they're building right next to a pond. So we've told them that they all need to go get those determination letters. It's gonna end up delaying projects. Not sure if there's a workaround for it. Gene, I'd love to pick your brain as to what your thoughts and experience on that might be or is. I know it's very new and we're not gonna do it here.
No, but basically it boils down to they're enforcing rules that were in place that they haven't in the past.
So, lots of interesting stuff happening. So we will see what these projects do. I anticipate several meetings on these. One item to note is the new solar law does require payment by developers of $15,000 in escrow to cover professional fees like Alex is in mind for this. And we are making sure that the town has in fact collected those monies and are actually applying it to the invoices that we send for this stuff. It's not clear if that was happening in the past.
Well, I have a question about, it's come up with the code with escrows. So I'm thinking of, escrow comes in from a solar company, they put that in there. If it's an escrow, doesn't that stay for the length of the project? How do we take draws off of that to pay Alex Erda?
It's deposited with the town to pay professional fees. When Alex sends an invoice, Lori should be paying Alex's and my invoices for the work on these projects from that amount. When the amount in the deposit escrow drops down to, I don't know what the threshold is, I'm just gonna say $1,000, the applicant has to refill it.
So they fill it 15,000 at a time.
I'd have to double check exactly, but the initial deposit is 15,000.
Is there a cap?
No. Because if there's a project and it takes some significant, let's say we deck the project and require them to do an environmental impact statement, and then there's 20 meetings as a result of that, you know, like, that's a lot of time and expense. We can't charge directly for seeker review, but when, you know, it's just, there's 20 meetings that last 3 hours at a time, like, there's significant expense, so. Or if the town needed to hire outside consultants to provide their own visual impact analysis, or to conduct an archaeological survey. You know, like the River Road one specifically, there's some question of whether there's any indigenous sites there. Now, SHPO hasn't gotten back to us yet, but the town could hire somebody to go out there and do a specific survey and review. Same thing with endangered species.
So the mechanism is escrow at the town, just submit your invoice to us, or is there a third party there that looks at that and says, hey, you know, this is Nate's legitimate invoice?
Well, that's the role of the town board, you know, review and question if the invoice time
But that's all done internally, it's not being challenged by the developer for some other third party.
No. Some places do have agreements that they enter into, specifically with applicants, that may give them some opportunity to do that, but your local law doesn't provide that mechanism for them. Obviously, if there's something excessive about it, they would probably end up raising
No,
a
I'm just
concern and challenging it.
looking not to get caught up into someone challenging
Yeah.
every $500 invoice,
Yeah,
right?
no,
That's just a consumption of time.
yeah, they wouldn't for like a $500
No, but
invoice,
I'm being dramatic in
Yep.
using that amount, but you see where I'm going with that.
Yep.
Anything else?
Nope.
Gentlemen? Set. Gonna move on to 8.5 Supervisor's Report. You have any question?
No, I
Would the-
item for Nate. We had,
I'm sorry.
at the last meeting, we had a discussion about the safety report and investigation.
Yes.
So we had a discussion about that, and I wanted to follow up on that discussion this week to see if the board had any comments that we want to discuss before we do anything with releasing or discussing the results of that report.
Well, I believe we were going to,
Was that too cryptic? I didn't mean to be.
No,
We got the drift.
but I thought we were
Is
gonna
this
get
an
the,
attorney-client?
yes, that's what I
Oh,
was,
it would be an executive session relating to matters concerning a
Right.
particular employee within the town.
right. And I would like to do that today if we could.
Or are you looking for
Yeah,
releasing the
we-
report, which we can't?
So, as far as releasing the report, I have no desire to release the report
Okay.
intact, but I do believe that the results of the report should be released for what portions of it were in
Yeah.
summary.
clearly a redacted report, I agree.
Yeah, even if it was a written summary of what
Okay.
it was, and not the report, just from the confidentiality issue of the statements that are in it and the process of the report generation.
And I thought we agreed to take the department head in to have that discussion.
Well, we didn't agree to anything yet.
Well, but that's where we were gonna try to get to. Can we
Right.
agree to that here?
That's why I'm bringing it up.
Well, I would like to do that.
Do
I would,
what?
I would like to go into executive session to deal with the matter of the report, the investigation, and to have a conversation with the department head.
I think we need to go in executive session first without the department head, correct?
Well, right, but leave it open to bring them in.
All right, so we gotta do that at the end.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I wasn't sure, I didn't think of that as a topic under my bailiwick, just as where
Okay.
it was. Otherwise, I would have brought that up. So that's all I have.
Okay.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay.
Returning report, no.
Supervisor's report. Any questions on what's posted there? I do have a couple things that Jody had given me. She went on vacation, so Tuesday she brought this to my attention. I made copies for you guys about the antivirus stuff. She had sent us all emails way back on March 21st. It expires 5/7/25, so I'm asking the board, could I get approval when she gets back Monday to have her do this, so we don't expire?
I have no issue.
David?
We're just re-upping?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's just,
Yeah.
it's gonna expire, but
Yeah.
she had sent it to us and it got lost in the cracks, and so if you
I'm
guys
okay.
are good, I
Yeah.
will tell her
Yes.
to redo that.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Other than that, the only thing I would like to have a discussion to inform the board, Mr. Clerk, you received the resignation of our department head and code department. It was time-stamped on Friday. I know you may not have been obligated to contact us, but I would like an explanation from you why you didn't make a courtesy call to me or one of the board members over the weekend, because I believe that had we had a fire or there was an incident, we would be looking for someone that was no longer employed at the town.
Well, he gave me his resignation at 4:05 PM, and he told me that he would call
He,
you.
well, I
He
can't
gave me-
hear you.
He gave me his resignation at just after 4 PM, and he told me that he would call you.
I don't care what he told you. I'm asking you as the clerk, I'm asking you, why didn't you take it upon yourself to at least give me a courtesy call? Because I believe our town was at risk. And I would just ask you in the future to please don't do that again.
Understood.
Because I believe it put us in a bad spot. So,
Understood.
could have been worse. We got through it, so good. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any questions for me, gentlemen?
I have none.
None.
None?
Mike, is there anything in the financials that are looking like we are gonna be running short on budget items?
I talked to Lori this morning, or this afternoon about that. It's been a little chaotic here with a couple other things. We went over some of it. She does not see anything out of the ordinary. We're gonna go tomorrow. It's just, our scheduling has been a little off, and I'm gonna sit down with her and go through every single thing that she's got to double check it. Do you see something that pops out at you?
So I don't, but, this was just, what was disseminated for the report was just really the last month's issue.
Yeah.
But you're getting together with Lori tomorrow and
Yeah.
coming up. The basis of my question is that we had some really significant cuts at budget time to address this stuff. I just wanna make sure.
You're talking line items that might be running short.
That might be running short, that are gonna be coming up in the future that we have to talk about. That's all I'm asking, is if you see anything that is gonna be an issue.
I'm gonna ask Darren why they're right here, Mr. Crack and Mr. Burden.
So I can tell you right now, on winter budget,
So,
personnel salaries, because we had 300 hours overtime
In 2025?
for our winter season, which starts in November and goes, so it carries me over. So my guys are above our winter budget for what they get in payroll. by
but I-
about, for
but I-
2025, yes, with what's budgeted in 2025, I'm gonna be, because now, where I'm at now, where I was, sorry, let me restart over.
Okay,
For 2024, where we ended at 2024, starting 25, projecting November and December for 2025, I am gonna be over. Because of where we are now versus last 2024, January, February, March months.
okay.
So the last 2 months of the winter down there, I gonna be, if not very close, but I know that for sure. But my summer ones, hopefully, once I'm done in that, should hopefully be able to balance that out, maybe. The one I am worried about is health insurance because they cut mine. And right now, I'm over health insurance for the first quarter by more than I was last year. I'm over last year's at this point.
Okay.
And
I
we
would just,
caught.
I would just ask that you get that information to Mike so that he can.
Yep, me and
Look
Joy
into
just
that.
went through it this week as well, so I'm just
Okay.
trying, because she's been out with family leave. But we just went through ours, so that's what I know. As of right now, nothing else looks out of the ordinary for me, not
Mr.
even my salt.
Mr. Burton?
Excuse me, sewer, the treatment and disposal line, I believe will probably go over due to the amount of chemicals that we're having to add to meet the DEC and EPA regulations. There was a few things that we had to purchase as well for the project that I didn't realize was not in the project. Water meters, backflows were in there, but water meters were not. So those are the things that we had to purchase that we're not budgeted for, but the biggest thing would be treatment and disposal of chemicals.
In dollars, what are you looking at for dollars?
We just started doing the chemicals, I'm not 100% sure what we're doing, but I know our disposal line currently, before we just billed, was getting pretty low. So I'll have a better feel once we get 2 or 3 billings worth of, the amount of pack we're using. Once they determine how much we have to apply, right now we're just doing the bulk dose to try to get the amounts down, the phosphorus and stuff.
Okay.
Once we know that, I can fine tune that a little more.
I just don't wanna do an emergency issue with line item adjustments and to pay bills, things like that. So if you could funnel that information to Mike so he can do that, and get it squared away.
Lori and I already spoke a little bit about it.
Okay.
In the code department, there is gonna be an issue there. What was budgeted from the department head to what we're gonna do for payroll in there, because I don't know how the board or what the board wants to do right now in the coverage in the code department. I don't know if we got, I mean, you have the budget from the person that's gone, but I don't know how we're going to address the issues we have there and what that might do to line items, Gene, I don't know, until the board gives me some direction on that.
I know we're gonna be talking about it later.
Okay, you asked a question, that could be a possibility,
Okay,
okay?
all right. Thank you, that's the only
Yep.
question I got.
All right, thank you. Gentlemen?
Greg, on your budget, the line item that you're
You're
going
okay, I
over,
I
to
need
Gene's point,
exercise.
are you over 20%, 50%, or,
Currently, I'm not over now,
right?
and I'm hoping we won't go over, but the it's more looking like we're gonna go over because of the added expenses that I had to.
No, I understand that. I was just trying to get a feel for what that percentage would be.
Was.
I don't know exactly what it'll be. I'm gonna shoot for probably 25 to 30%. Being that I had to spend $10,000 on water meters on a small as it was. Pack is not cheap for what we're having to add.
So you think it might be like $20,000 altogether maybe for the whole thing you're gonna be over, or $100,000?
I'm hoping $20,000 is gonna cover it, to go over. I don't know until I can get that exact dosage we're gonna need for that. We can fine tune that, know exactly what we need to keep our numbers down. To meet permit.
Well, just keep in mind that bills can't be paid to a vendor on a line item that will push it negative. So
negative.
you've gotta know that in advance so that we can do those adjustments. That's all. That's my concern on it.
We did a little bit this week,
Yep.
Lori and I, so we,
Okay, Okay.
Anything
I
else,
appreciate it.
gentlemen?
Thank you, for looking ahead.
Thanks, Greg.
David?
I'm set.
Okay, we're gonna move on to resolutions 9.1.
Mike, I have something real quick, sorry, I
Oh,
forgot.
go ahead.
Just the health benefit discussion that we had, I forgot it to get it on here, but I just wanted to know where we want to go. I sent an email out again today, just to have it fresh in everybody's memory, just so they could pull it up if they want it, but that was what I got, and that goes back to those 3 years for everyone, and it's all separated out by individual and separated into each one per year.
Was it,
Well, I think that we can talk about it in the next meeting, but I didn't look at it, so I don't know
Okay.
anything about it. That's my,
Well, and one thing, Darren, have you talked with the union president about this? Because, I mean, I mentioned in an email earlier, like, there needs to be an agreement with the union. So I don't want the town board approving to give payments to
Without-
anybody until we have an
I
agreement.
think they're sitting still until they know what what this decision is made on, and then they're gonna
so
go
did
from
we
that.
get a final answer on the dental and
So,
the 15%?
looking at the dental insurance, going back to like 1997, I am of the opinion, because like, and then tracking the language through.
but are we gonna have this discussion now, or are we gonna compile
Oh,
all the
yeah, I mean,
documents?
yeah.
Fair enough.
I think it should be on the agenda for next
We'll
week.
put it on the
Yeah,
agenda.
I think
Okay.
it should be
Yep.
its own
Yep,
item on the agenda.
With all the documents, so we can all see them
Everything.
and understand them.
my apologies.
No, I'm just kinda being a brat.
Anything else? Darren?
No, I'm good, thanks, that's what I needed to know, so I
Alright.
just wanna make sure.
Thank you for reminding us. Mr. Nate, resolutions?
Resolution 9.1, approving abstract number 8.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
I have none.
None. Roll call, please.
Mr. Warden?
Aye.
Mr. Simonis?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Hulbert?
Aye.
Mr. Lumsden?
Aye.
Resolution 9.2, authorizing renewal of server contract for 2 years.
So move.
Second.
Discussion?
I have none.
None.
Just that I would want to make sure that the supporting documents are included with the agenda. I know we discussed it last week, but it's not here. So,
It should have been.
I
Was the
did get the
last
tax
meeting?
taken off that. That was in the original quote.
no, understood, yep, that Jay asked about. Yes, yep. But it's not part of the agenda, just the resolution.
Yeah, it should have been attached. I think I sent it to Jody as a link to the old agenda, so I don't know
All
why.
right,
it
I'm
didn't
making
get
a
on here.
note to reminder again. Attachments. Okay. Any more discussion?
I have none.
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 Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Warden?
Aye.
Mr. Simonis?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Hulbert?
Aye.
Mr. Lumsden?
Aye.
Resolution 9.3, establishing a reserve fund to finance a type of capital improvement and appropriating monies therefore. This is for a type reserve fund for townwide building and improvements.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
I have none.
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 Mr. Clerk, roll call.
Just as a
Oh.
reminder that when we go to do anything with this money, we will have to have a referendum specifically on what the use is gonna be. And we have up to 10 years to add money to this, up to a $10 million limit. That's the intent. That's all I've got.
Yeah, it's a permissive referendum, so notice in the paper, public would have an opportunity to file a request to have a vote. You could affirmatively put it out to a vote if you wanted to. I've never seen a town choose to do that.
No, but that's a good distinction. It is a permissive referendum.
Any more discussion?
None.
None.
Mr. Clerk, roll call.
Mr. Warden?
Aye.
Mr. Simonis?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Hulbert?
Aye.
Mr. Lumsden?
Aye.
Resolution 9.4, establishing a reserve fund to replace the town hall parking lot and appropriating $300,000 for such purpose.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
I have none.
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 The 1.5 million was something that we didn't really discuss or settle on, and when I was talking to Nate about it, that is the number that I put in that I had in my notes, but it wasn't solid, so I just wanted to bring that up, that 1.5 was, that's the maximum for this. So if there's a discussion on that, for that.
You guys good with that?
I'm good with that.
I am.
Okay.
Roll call, please, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Warden?
Aye.
Mr. Simonis?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Hulbert?
Aye.
Mr. Lumsden?
Aye.
Resolution 9.5, establishing a reserve fund to replace the town hall roof and appropriating $350,000, therefore, the estimated maximum cost of this is also 1.5 million.
So moved.
Second. Okay. Jean can have it. Discussion?
I have
None.
I have none.
Jay?
None.
Mr. Clerk, roll call.
Mr. Warden?
Aye.
Mr. Simonis?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Hulbert?
Aye.
Mr. Lumsden?
Aye.
Resolution 9.6, acknowledging Highway Superintendent is a member of the New York State Association of Town Highway Superintendents Executive Committee, and it also authorizes his use of a town vehicle to travel to and from training, seminars, and meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
None.
None.
Oh, where does this get paid from? Like, how, the travel and the time, things like that?
Out of my highway fund. Highway superintendent's portion.
Okay. I was just curious if there was something else.
It's only fuel. We won't get the gas, because I don't, they pay for everything else, the rooms, meetings, trainings, all that.
Okay, nothing that I'm gonna worry about then. Okay.
It's only fuel to get there.
Thanks,
You good,
Mike.
David?
Yep, I'm good, yep.
Jay?
Should get you an
Good.
electric car.
Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Warden?
Aye.
Mr. Simonis?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Hulbert?
Aye.
Mr. Lumsden?
Aye. Okay, gentlemen.
There's no code officer.
Are we gonna have a discussion about what to do in the interim in the code department?
Sure.
So,
What you wanna do now?
so, well, I'm just gonna tell you what I did. So, it was brought to my attention Monday morning that the department head has left. The three people that were there, Diane, Renee, and Doug, didn't know what to do. I brought Diane up because, in my opinion, she's the best qualified and knows that office very well. I asked Diane if she would just till today, just oversee it, kind of give people things to do. She did. She was very gracious, and she at least kept it under wraps till we got here. But moving forward, what do we do tomorrow? What do we do next week until we can get someone hired or whatever we're gonna do? I'm just telling you what I did. But we got three people in there, and who's gonna fill out their work orders, you know, like when they came to work, when they didn't, who's gonna answer the phone or whatever. I mean, there's no one there. Diane's basically been doing it anyway, so that's why I picked her for now.
Can you put it under another department head until?
I don't know, that's a question for him.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you guys what I did.
Town board makes decisions about how departments are structured.
I don't know as if I really wanna make her department head. As
No,
far as
no,
like
no,
a
I'm
I'm just
not-
talking about sharing some duties with
Have
another
one of the other
department.
department heads
I
to
just-
take control of that department until we can.
Fill it.
Right, so basically what I did is, there's three people down there, and then when I asked Diana if she would just oversee this till I can get to Wednesday, and then I brought the other two up, and I said, for right now, if Diane asks you to do something, please work with her and do what she says. And tell her when you're gonna be here and that kind of stuff. I wasn't gonna sit there all day long and me do it, and I thought that was stepping outside my lane. I'm just telling you what I did, but not asking to make her, I just wanna know how the people there are gonna get some direction.
I don't have any issue with her being the interim boss.
Okay.
You know, I just don't wanna get tied up into the department head title issue, that's all. That is my only issue.
And that's fine, I'm just,
Yep.
guys,
But you
I
can
just
do that.
wanted your approval, I'll ask her, will you keep doing it? Now, she's working, she's a 19-and-a-half-hour person, and even ever since she came back, she's working all the time. She volunteers an awful lot of time because she was doing things that the department head should have done. So I'm not sure how we're going to address that. I will tell her tomorrow, keep doing what she's doing, and hopefully she keeps doing it. I don't know what to,
Does she come in every day or just certain days of the
she
week?
comes, well, she was scheduled, normally when she was hired, she was gonna come in Mondays, Tuesdays, and a half a day Wednesday. But for the last couple months, she's been working a lot, to the point that the department head, I had to tell him, you know, you're gonna go over your budget here. And he goes, well, she's doing all the stuff in the building, and I'm like, I appreciate that, but you can't run over your budget with her. Diane told me Monday when she was in my office, she said, Mike, I've been doing it, it's hard for me to leave when the stuff isn't getting done, and she's just a very dedicated person, and I'm grateful for that. But she's doing it. If she's putting in 30 hours, I think she should be compensated for it.
Agreed. Absolutely.
So-
That's more of an issue of has to.
Pardon?
That's an issue of has to be compensated for.
Well, right, but she's, as far as.
And I think we're talking about our current situation.
Correct.
Right, we're not trying to autopsy what has been done.
No, but,
So
And
I agree, if she's willing to do that,
The
I
money's
would
there if she's
certainly
willing to
increase
do
her hours and
I
compensate
need
her for
approval
it
from you
appropriately.
guys to tell her and to
Yeah.
tell Jody to pay her them hours that she's working. I wasn't gonna do that on my own accord, that's what I'm asking the board.
I'm 100% on board with that, Mike.
Is she?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We need to
I-
find
I-
out.
I talked to her Monday, I talked to her today, and I said, Diane, we have a meeting tonight, I have no idea what's gonna happen. She goes, I just need to know what the board wants me to do.
So,
And-
so Mike, I think there's definitely an action for the board to take, because she was hired as a part-time
Exactly.
individual. Now, that is her hiring, and what the board has authorized her to work is separate from what she's actually working.
Right.
She should, to Gene's point, be submitting her time sheets and getting paid for hours worked.
Right.
The board should, I think, do a motion to authorize for a temporary period of time Diane Aurelio to work in excess of her 19 and a half hours until such time as the board finds it, no longer necessary. Some action like that, so that way they can tie back to the authorization for her as only a part-timer.
Right, and the same thing, I asked her about Renee. Renee is helping her, she's also part-time. Renee said that her schedule has changed a little bit because of her personal situation. So, I just wanna know what you guys wanna do, because what she's trying to do is mirror Diane to learn what goes on in there. She seems very adept, she's just very good at picking things up, but we gotta get some coverage in there, because if someone's sick or not, she's also 19 and a half hours. So, I don't know what she's willing to do either.
But the inclination is that they're both willing to do more.
I'm assuming that. But as far as Jody in the payroll, we have to know, can Diane sign their sheets? Do I sign their sheets when they're putting in their hours for the week? I mean, that was department head, that's our policy. So I'm just asking, all this stuff can be worked out, I just wanna know how the board wants to handle it.
Is that an issue that Jody can document?
Yeah,
Because she's here all the
yeah,
time.
but I need you guys to tell me that.
I don't know, we're having the conversation, so I
Right.
don't know. If Diane is in charge of the day-to-day, daily operations of what's going on, and be able to give Doug the direction on, and making sure that people are coming in on time, and the reports are getting done, and
Right.
all that other stuff, and then the actual authority of it falls to Jody. because if
Okay.
there's a problem, she's there all the time.
Okay,
That works for me.
okay, now, if Renee works 20 hours versus the 19 and a half, is that okay?
Well, I think can we do a motion for both of them? I
Right,
think
I agree.
financially, the money,
Is there?
the department head line is still there, the
Right.
money is still there. I mean, this is not gonna go on forever.
No,
But I think in the situation that we're in now, we need coverage, we need to continue
Yep.
operating that office.
I agree.
I don't know what, I have no issue with doing the motion for the additional hours, that's not an issue, that's not a concern for me, but the additional hours that need to be worked are code enforcement official hours that neither one of them
No,
can
right.
do.
No.
So,
I was just thinking cover. Alright. We
That-
used to have
there's-
clerks in there that worked more than 19 and a half hours.
Yeah, right.
So, you're right, in one hand, they're not gonna generate more work, as much work because we don't have code officers. So, I'm just asking
No.
if Diane needs help and the other, Renee's willing to help her and it comes to 20 hours that week, she needs to be paid, but that's over the 19 and a half, so I just want clarification. We'll be watching it, Jody will watch it, I'll watch it to see what the hours are doing and justification, but I wouldn't want it to get kicked that Renee had to help her for Diane for,
But it's two issues, right? You've got the office, an actual code enforcement officer.
correct.
So my question is, are there any third parties that could be utilized in the interim?
Well, we thought we had a municipal agreement with the town of Fenton, but apparently that was never signed.
It was never approved by Fenton.
Never approved by
They never
Fenton.
approved it?
They never
Yeah, I looked
approved
at
it.
their minutes, I never saw it approved.
was it presented and turned down or not presented?
That I do not know.
Okay.
This was like 2020, 2021.
Well, I was
That-
thinking
that's-
more of,
This is a big discussion, so maybe we could finish the.
Right,
Yeah.
let's go
Okay.
back to the
So-
office. I would say we're in a tough spot.
Yes,
I say let them work the amount of hours, whatever they need to get the job done. Let them decide if they're not gonna abuse it. If they do abuse it, then we change
well,
it.
Jody's gonna monitor it,
Yeah.
like, because they're gonna turn their worksheets into Jody. I see her all the time, she'll let me know
So I say, let's make a motion for both of those employees to work
at their current,
whatever hours they need to have over that part-time status.
yeah, the
Up
19,
to 35 hours a
up
week
to 35.
Yeah.
up to 35 a week.
for
Do it
3
for
months.
Right,
3 months sounds
yeah,
good,
yeah, 90 days.
For now,
For
to
now,
get us
3
out of
months
here.
is good.
Yep.
Gives us time to,
I make that motion.
And then, well,
I'll second. So we can have discussion.
okay, thank you. I appreciate that, Chief.
You're welcome.
So, I'm gonna tell Diane that, and she's gonna understand it, she can watch all of this. But the way I'm going to look at it is, she's gonna let me know what the issues are in there. She's gonna do the daily stuff, because I'll let her give us the report, and then it'll come to the board, what she's seeing and what she needs.
Absolutely.
Is that fair?
to the whole board,
Okay.
and we can.
Because I think the lady's got a list of what she thinks needs to be done inside that office. And so we'll let her give us a report.
Perfect,
Is that good?
perfect.
All right, thank you.
Next,
Any more discussion?
Not on that.
I have none.
none.
Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Warden?
Aye.
Oh,
What?
is it a resolution?
Well,
Wait.
let's do the motion.
Yeah,
You'll have a couple of weeks to vet out what it does and then formalize the resolution
Resolution.
at the next meeting of the final plan. So they can work whatever they need to. It needs to be a resolution, and I don't wanna ad hoc it.
I mean, we can do a resolution next meeting, but I think doing a motion tonight, so that way there's an actual authorization for
Yep.
this.
Yep, do the motion tonight for it.
You usually don't like to do motions and resolutions, but I appreciate this. Because we gotta get,
Yeah, I don't wanna hold it up.
thank you. I appreciate that.
Mr. Warden?
Aye.
Mr. Simonis?
aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Hulbert?
Aye.
Mr. Lumsden?
Aye. Thank you, gentlemen. All right,
Next, we need to advertise to hire.
Yes, for a code officer.
Code, I mean,
Mr. Burden can put a signboard out, would that be all right? For a code officer, plus whatever we're gonna do for Indeed, or what do you wanna do?
We've done Indeed in the past, the signboard in the past, the website in the past,
Okay,
and, we have reached out in the past to all of the
Other municipalities?
the code enforcement official associations, that are
Okay.
within the town for the opening positions, cause they all post on their boards.
okay,
We did that in the past.
okay,
Those are free issue. The thing that is, a cost issue that we haven't done in the past before is something in the paper.
okay. So I'll get, when Jody gets back Monday, we'll get going on that. We're already searching
what are we advertising for?
a code officer, how would you phrase that? Gene?
Not a
He has to
department.
be certified.
Certified,
He can't be uncertified and us planning on training him.
uniform building code.
That's right.
So there's actually a few roles that the person fills, right? It's the uniform code, it's the zoning code, and it's also, Gavin was serving as your floodplain administrator.
And what are we gonna do about that, right? How urgent is that?
You need somebody who can sign and review all that stuff.
And it has to be an employee of the town. So, let's treat that as a separate discussion.
Well, let's not forget it.
No, we'll do it, but I want to just finish the
Okay.
code enforcement official.
So we have to set a dollar amount, correct?
Yes.
Dollar amount?
Yeah, but are we talking about, a department head or a code enforcement official?
I think just a code enforcement official. That's
Yeah.
just my
Right.
personal feeling on it, right?
Okay.
At this point, get a code officer in there and see what we get.
So,
Because, go ahead, David, you had something?
No.
Oh, I thought you
I'm
said
thinking.
Okay.
Go ahead,
No, not.
carry on.
So looking at this moving forward, right now, we need, I believe, we need to get a certified code officer so that we can do building permits. We fielded a lot of calls already because there's projects that are waiting for inspections and everything else. I spoke with the staff in the code department. I gave them my opinion of what they shouldn't say. I talked to Nate about it. We can't give legal advice, code advice, engineering advice to them. They can figure out what they need to do outside because we don't have that service, but we don't give that direction. So I think we need someone, our urgency is to have a code officer now. Now, in the past, the town has always had the code officer be the department head. I personally don't like that situation. You're putting all your eggs in one basket. The code officer leaves. He's also been running the department. My analogy, one of the analogies I think of, a person that's certified surgeon to cut us apart is not the one that manages the hospital or the OR. So we have someone, we're fortunate right now, we don't know how long, we have someone that understands how to run the office and what permits go where and to this and that. I just don't like putting all our eggs in one basket, but that's just my opinion of it. So whether we use the people we have, or we get a manager later on, or maybe the code officer has all them skills. But in the past, every time we put a code officer in, I shouldn't say, that's a broad statement, many times in this town, we make the next code guy the department head too, and they have no idea how that whole office runs. And then when they leave, it becomes a bigger problem. Or the department head that's a code officer is controlling everything, and there's no one checking him or her of when they're there or when they're not. And that's why I think a manager of that office would at least be able to know to hold that code officer, here's your list, we got 4 complaints. When the code officer comes back, where's your sheets, where's your stuff? Just like a police officer is in a police patrol car. But when the department head is the code officer and he or she doesn't do their work, there's no one to even challenge that. So that's just my opinion. But that's something we can deal with down the road. But right now, I believe we need to find a uniform building code person to do building permits and stuff. It's just my,
If that, the salary that Kevin asked about, that's really what the
well, we have the,
issue is, that's,
do we leave it, why wouldn't we, I don't know, do we leave it where the last one was? Do you lower it? What do you guys normally do?
no, the position, we're not talking about a department head, and the department head is.
We're talking about a
Kevin,
code officer.
Code officer,
Okay.
so I don't have the inclination to put in the salary
Okay.
for a department head and fill it with a code enforcement official.
Right.
I would leave it at the $50,000 range if it's the department head. If it's not, then you've gotta reduce that.
Okay.
But that 50,000 was annual, we're talking about hourly rate, but if you're talking about $35,000 to $40,000 a year, that's a $19 an hour to $25 an hour range, depending on, experience.
Right.
So, so that's where we've gotta decide what that dollar amount is for the advertising.
Right, and then we'll see what we get.
The discussion though really needs to be
Is the salary for
finalized.
now.
Well, the discussion really has, in my opinion, needs to be whether or not we're hiring for a department head or not, or
Okay.
not, so.
Do you
Gentlemen?
think, the attractiveness of the job is more attractive if they are to be a department head or just a code officer? I mean, is there a pool out there of people to be interested in?
Well, there's code officers that do multiple towns. So there's a possibility we might get a combination of something
Okay.
we don't even know. And they'll just come into our town and we have our office staff and we have that, hopefully well-oiled machine sometime. And we don't know what we're gonna end up with. And the world is changing, just like our tax assessor works for two different towns. There's code officers that do the same thing. So we may end up with a code officer that works in the mornings, we don't know what we might get.
We don't know what we're getting, but we're asking for a full-time person.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm
Fair.
not interested in getting 2 or 3 part-time people.
I'm not suggesting, I'm just saying we don't know where we're gonna end up.
I understand.
I think we need to shoot for the stars, and I think we need to go for the department head,
Okay?
make it a little bit more.
I agree with you, Kevin, that I have a hard time envisioning that department working with a department head that's not code certified. We don't have the full-time, the workload in there does not justify an administrative position that is a department head, and then clerks and code enforcement officials. There's just not the workload or the structure of that department on how it works. So I can't see hiring a code enforcement official and then have to come up with a whole new structure of how the department's doing. Not in an emergency situation, because we're out of a code enforcement.
I didn't hear the
So-
last part.
Because we're in an emergency, we don't have a code enforcement official that can do any work.
So Gene, your recommendation would be to have that person be the department head as well?
Yes, yeah, I agree with Kevin.
I agree with that, yes.
So that would be on the advertisement then, looking for a department head and code, or a code officer who would be a department head.
Basically,
Or
run
just-
our
or just-
ordinance office.
Or we just advertise for a code person, And during the interview or whatever, we say, do you mind being the department head?
Well, no, because I think they gotta know the workload.
Yeah.
The salary's gonna reflect the workload.
And, you know, Nate's comment about it's not just New York State Building Code, you know, it is
Right,
an
it's
ordinance
ordinance.
officer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is not an issue. I mean, there's no real certification that has to happen. He doesn't have to be a code enforcement officer to be an ordinance officer, because
Right.
that's a different issue. But I think that our advertisement should be for the department head of the code and ordinance department, and only accept applicants that have the New York State Code Enforcement Officials certification to do that work. Because that's,
They gotta
40
be
to 50%
certified,
of
yeah,
his
I
time.
agree, they gotta be certified.
So now, go ahead.
I do like the idea, Mike, of the checks and balances of not having him the department head, but I don't know how that organizational structure would look like, to your point. You know, that who would be the department head if the code enforcement officer weren't?
Well, I guess you have to define department head and how it's used. I mean, there's towns that have multiple code officers, and then there's a office manager that runs it, and when the code people come in, they make sure, where's your stuff, and they file it and send it where it
Yeah, I
needs to go.
understand that, and I like the checks and balance to that, but again, who would be the department head in our situation?
Right now, if you had a code office, if we put an advertisement out there and there's someone that's certified code officer, then they're gonna come in, and I'm not saying to make the people that we have right now, but I'm gonna say Diane, she's the manager of that office. So she's making sure when people, yep, the code officer was here, he worked 4 hours Monday and he worked 1 hour Tuesday. Because that has been a repeated problem in this town since I've been involved, since 2016. And comp, they used to use comp, and no one knew when people are working. The staff and the people in there were working. Where are they? And we even have an issue right now with the person that was hired, that is trying to get his training. Diane asked, she goes, can you tell me when he's supposed to be here? I didn't have that answer.
well, the current structure we have with all the departments is the department head answers to the town board, and the department staff answers to the department head. And that's a clear line, and I really think that we've gotta maintain that structure.
Okay.
But that's, if we're hiring for a department head, it's the salary for a department head and not for a code enforcement official. So, need to decide which way we're going.
I like the department head part, but I just don't know what we do for salary. The budgeted 57,000 in 2025.
It'd be the same though, wouldn't it? Or for what Gavin was getting, or is that low now for a department head, or who's also a code officer?
Well, it's what's there, it's what's budgeted, so I think we need to stay within the budget for what the advertisement is, and if we went from whatever $50,000 and $57,000 is in an hourly rate associated to that for the position, and get the applicants for it. When we've been up against it in the past, we've had to have those conversations about whether or not we're gonna adjust it going forward. But if we budgeted for 57, I think that's Gavin, that was with the increase, cause he wasn't hired at 57. He was hired at 50.
Might I suggest just posting a range, right?
Yeah,
So 45, 40 to 60? I mean, just trying to help
Right.
you know, help the discussion along here.
Well, I think if it's a department head with code enforcement certification, I would say 50 to 60. I don't think you can go lower than 50 if they're already certified code enforcement officers. You're not gonna get anybody to apply for it. I mean, that's just
And
my.
the other question we gotta answer is who's gonna do the interviews?
Let's,
When you get there.
yeah,
I mean, there is money, I mean, there's other budget lines in that office. There was a full-time clerk, which we don't have. We have 2 part-times.
Right, but that's gonna change some if they start working the hours.
that's $24 to $29
You're
an
talking
hour.
Diane.
Wait a minute, nobody's getting Gavin's salary.
Oh.
What?
The 50 to 60, that range is $24 an hour to $29 an hour.
It appears that we're in that average range. That would be in the average range.
So,
So what's the
So
wording?
I'll make a motion that we put an advertisement out for a department head with New York State certified code enforcement official, active registration for a salary of range $24 per hour to $29 per hour.
Anything else?
We don't need to, no.
Do you need to add anything in there about department head?
He said that, I think.
Yeah, it was the department head with the CEO
Oh,
certification.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
Yep.
that. Yep.
But it probably would be clear to designate the department head of the code and ordinance department.
So Gene, one thing, I mean, I understand your intent. I'm just looking at the Broome County Civil Service lists, and, you know, like, I'm not seeing, you know, exactly that title map onto a job specification class. So I would just say,
Why is it a civil service position?
well, I guess my gut is almost everything civil service, which is where I go to immediately. If you're thinking it's not civil service at all, but like,
This is administrative.
okay. Yeah, I mean,
I just have the conversation and find out if we're doing it right or wrong, but
That's a good question.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's the one aspect of it, which is the code enforcement, which is a public office.
Right.
But you're also having this person do department head work, you know, so think of like Greg. Greg is not a public officer, he's civil service. So this is like a dual hybrid of that. So that would be maybe the out, it's just,
You think it's exempt then?
well, yeah, so Gene's thinking it's exempt. My gut is just always civil service, double check. You know, just to make sure we're not overstepping ourselves. So I don't wanna create a civil service issue. I think go ahead and advertise. I would just wanna double check the title that we're using to make sure, to your point, Gene, we're exempt from civil service, or if we have to use one of their job specifications or not.
Can I say something? When I spoke to civil service about this other title, the town can add to a specific title, I believe Crowdy already did. So like ordinance enforcement officer, you could add for the town of Shenango, they would have to give a department head.
Yeah, they're
we
fairly
could-
flexible about that stuff.
Yeah, it is, when we do that, we got locked into that for like a 10-year period.
Yeah, that's it. Once you do that, it's 10 years.
And then you're jammed into it. I am looking at it not as a civil service position. I'm looking at it as the code enforcement official duties may be a civil service title that this person would perform those duties of, but we're not hiring them as a civil service or as a code enforcement official.
It'd be, well, everybody's technically civil service. They would be exempt from the civil service tests and things like that.
But I'm
Yeah.
guessing since Gavin said there was nobody on the list for the last guy that he just hired, for Doug that he just hired, so there's not a valid list.
Yeah, there's probably no list, and I think as a department head, you would likely avoid a test and a list, my question is whether or not civil service still has job specifications, classifications for this that we have to be following.
Okay, well then,
Joe, you'll have to ask that.
Yep, she'll
let's-
call
let's-
that
Let's move forward
last
and get her hands
lady.
slapped.
I can't think of her name right now.
Which is, which happens with lots of places.
All right, so did you make a motion?
I did.
It's not,
Anybody
it's not
second it?
supervisory.
I'll second it.
Any more discussion?
None.
No.
Nope, none.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Warden?
Aye.
Mr. Simonis?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Hulbert?
Aye.
Mr. Lumsden?
Nay. Okay, what else we gotta cover?
We have to authorize the expenditures for the advertisement,
Yep,
so.
500?
I made a
Or no,
motion.
I think it was 250, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I don't know how, I would wanna go 3 weeks, so I wouldn't wanna stay with 250, so I make a motion that we expense $500 for Indeed.
Do you
for
wanna
3
go
weeks.
4 weeks?
That's discuss,
Yeah, I'm asking. Is
nope,
that-
well, I'm making a motion, so I need a second before we can start discussing it.
Second,
Discussion.
4 weeks. I think it should be for 4 weeks.
Up to $500.
Yep.
For the
You'll need
advertisement?
$500 for that.
Okay. I'll amend my motion for the duration of 4 weeks. But let's just look at the calendar, so we can tie it into board meeting dates.
So we're back on the 14th and 28th of May, Gene.
So,
So technically, if they started tomorrow, we could know by the 14th. It's close.
okay.
Ended on the
Yeah, that's
16th.
me.
Right.
May
Well, if-
16th?
If you ended at the end of the week,
At,
then,
at the end of the week, it would be the 16th.
then the following, it could get on the agenda for the 28th if we have a list of candidates.
Right.
Well, who's got?
That ends, that's on the 16th, you said?
It ends on the 16th.
On a Friday?
Well, if you started it, yeah, if you started
Well,
it tomorrow
she'll-
roughly, it'll end on the
Yeah,
16th or
Jody,
the 17th.
yeah. She'll be, all right.
So to get it on the 14th agenda, or to get it on the
I think,
28th agenda?
I think the 28th agenda. I think if you want to do it on the 14th, we got to end it so you can get it on the agenda by the 9th.
Right.
So it'd only be 3 weeks, if that.
And once we know the applications, then we can pick the,
Well, how long is it gonna take to post that?
pardon?
Right, is that something that can be posted tomorrow?
It can be posted quick, right, to Indeed?
I've never done it in.
Okay, well, Jody, I'll get with
Yeah,
Lori.
it's-
Jody's not here tomorrow, so.
Yeah.
She's gonna
I'll
have
get
to,
with Laura.
she's probably gonna have to recreate it because it's the department head, but she can use a lot of the information. It's probably on there from,
But what I was saying, Kevin, is if it can be posted tomorrow and it ends on
She can
the
post it.
13th or 14th or something, you know, that's pretty close to 4 weeks, 4 full weeks.
so the problem is if we want it on the agenda for the 14th, we have to have it done by the 9th or the 8th
Oh, to be on the.
to be
yeah, yeah,
on the
yeah.
agenda for the 14th.
Yeah.
Which
So-
we can, that would just be
Well,
3 weeks.
So why don't we end it on the 15th? That'll give all the applications in that can be disseminated for the agenda for the next week, and we can choose who we're gonna interview and pick our interview committee.
I think that's good.
Yep.
Okay?
Well, good?
Do you want the
I did-
signboard out front too, and set a
Yes.
website?
Yeah.
Signboard,
Yep,
website?
all of that.
We have out there right now on the signboard, the clerk's position. So we'll put out there for this position, but we also have an opening on the planning board. Because the lady moved out of the area, so can we at least kick that out there and put that on the webpage and put the signboard out for a planning board member also?
Yeah, there's room on there,
Yeah, he's got 3 signboards, so.
get them all up there, light them up.
Light
Line
'em
the
up.
whole in front of
Light 'em up.
Just tell me what you want on
Yeah.
them and I'll put them up.
Greg was eager to do it, and I told him to hold off till we had
Well,
this
I
meeting,
don't
so.
think that needs to ever be a town board decision. If there's
It's
something
just-
on the signboard, Greg, put it up.
Oh, okay, well, he was going to, and
I'm telling you, that's my opinion. So,
Wait, we better finish this motion.
I was,
Rephrase that one more time.
rephrase that one more time, yeah.
If there's an opening, let me put it out there.
if, I don't want you to have to wait for a town board meeting to put something out on the signboard to get approval to put it out there. That's under your purview, your discretion. Put up there what you want. There's not,
Really?
you've got responsibility. If you put something up there that
Could be
shouldn't
some
be there, you're
choice
gonna take
messages
the
out there,
heat.
Gene.
It's all,
But I don't really wanna take up time.
well, that's fine, but
Somebody's just gonna provide me what.
the wording of it.
Yes.
So if he gets it from the clerk or from me, from the meeting when he's not here, he's good to go.
Yeah.
Okay?
Take some time.
You good, Mr. Burden? Good.
Give me what to put on.
We'll do that. Thank you.
We still have a motion out there?
no, are you gonna amend that?
For what?
Oh, I don't know if everything has been included in that.
You did indeed, you did the 15th
That
to
was-
have a quote,
That was for the motion for the
$500
for 4 weeks. Or for-
but to end on the
yes.
15th.
For- and
And on the
15th.
15th.
So, amend my motion for the duration of the Indeed advertisement to end on the
May
15th of
15th.
May. Yes,
Okay.
thanks, Jay.
Amend my second.
All right. Any more discussion?
None.
Not on that.
David?
No.
Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Warden?
Aye.
Mr. Simonis?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Hulbert?
Aye.
Mr. Lumpton?
Aye.
I
What-
want to follow up on Jay's question for what we do in the interim for, if there's other options out there. Because we can't do anything for code.
Say that
Or-
again.
Jay had asked, what are our options between now and when we hire somebody to address a code enforcement or a zoning issue? So, we have nobody certified, nobody qualified
Nope.
to do that. Which is gonna put us in a bind for a lot of different things, including the stormwater issue, so we have to address that.
So we gotta pick someone for stormwater
Right,
and
my-
employee.
I'm gonna recommend that we make Darren the stormwater coordinator, because he's already the drainage coordinator, and until we get somebody else in code, we gotta have somebody. So that's my recommendation.
I'll second that for discussion.
Well, then I'll make it a motion.
Write the resignation letter right now?
Is there resident?
Yeah, they can tell you, they can pass a motion directing you to do anything.
Oh. Signboard. Signboard. All right.
All right, so you got motion and a second?
Yeah, I mean, you're an independent elected official, you can just say no, and then you'll have a battle with the town board over what you're supposed to be doing.
So,
I don't
We'll
see why
just
you can't.
help us out.
So, I am not saying that it is a figurehead position, but it really is, because Gavin, nobody that actually is doing that is actually relying on anybody but the town engineer and the town attorney to make sure that all the stuff is done and right. I'm not saying that, but this is a stopgap issue for the person that, it should be the code, the department head of the code and ordinance department who holds that title. So, anything that Gavin and the previous code guys have always relied on Alex and the town engineer to make sure that all the paperwork was done and the recommendation to sign anything. I wanna make that statement for the record, for expectations of whoever holds that title, but we've
So
gotta have it.
We need him, what you're asking is for him to do it in the interim till we get a code officer.
That's my intent.
Okay? Yeah, but in the interim, can you help us out?
But
Is that a motion?
it was a motion, and it was seconded.
I second it. Discussion, gentlemen.
I'm all good.
I'm good.
None.
Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Warden?
Aye.
Mr. Simonis?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Hulbert?
Aye.
Mr. Lumsden?
Aye.
Thank you, Darren.
Will you do it,
Thank
Darren?
you, Darren.
Thank you. I'm just making sure. Okay, all right.
So all the projects that the town has going right now, say they're halfway done, they have to stop?
No.
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 But do they need a final inspection before their occupancy and things like that?
Depends on where they are in the process,
Right.
I would suspect.
But
So there are
people that-
inspections that will need to be done at certain intervals wherever those projects are.
What if there's nobody there to do the
And
inspection?
then there's a problem, right?
Well,
There's code
There-
inspections that
There's
have to be
code
run-
inspectors that they can
that
personally
we have to
get.
do for the sewer project.
Engineer.
I mean,
Right,
those
they can call somebody independent.
Correct.
Right, as long as
Independently.
they're certified.
Yep,
That's where I was going
Yes.
before. If they
Yes.
called somebody like ATL or somebody like that, if they had that type of personnel, they could call someone to do that, because they do that for electrical and plumbing inspections.
It has to be.
be a New
it ha-
York State,
But what I'm saying
Or
is
an
to
engineer.
have
But
those,
it has to be through the town. The town has to have that contract with that
okay, so
person.
they can't do it independently.
They cannot do it, well, they can do it, like, the town can hire them as an independent contractor.
I understand that, but I'm saying, say, if I had a project going, and I called the town, and the person in the office says, we don't have anybody to do that, and I've got a schedule to keep, I can't call somebody else.
No, the applicant cannot pay for the code-required inspection services. No, that has to be the AHJ. So,
What if we found somebody that wanted to come in there tomorrow and do it part-time, independent contractor?
I don't know as if that's a problem, as long as it's the town that is paying them.
So the person has to be appointed as the code officer. So there's like comptroller's opinions or an attorney general opinion. Like ATL was basically hired by towns to provide code services. And it's like, no, one person has to be the code
Oh,
officer.
so it can't, I see what
So
you're saying.
we can't
So it
just
can't
say
be-
ATL.
Can't
and
be
then
a
they
third
said-
party, it has to be a person.
It has to be a person. Now, ATL has offered bodies before and said, oh, okay, we'll give you
We'll
this person.
assign that person.
And then the town appoints that person as the code officer. They have to otherwise meet all the normal requirements of serving as a public officer.
so the town has to have a uniform building code for a uniform building code, or does, if they didn't have one, is there one at the county level?
So Darren
Why-
was actually
why-
just asking that.
Oh.
I know like is it Shenango County? There's lots of places that don't have
Have
their
code
own code
off- right,
officers. And
uniform,
it's,
right.
but the county handles that stuff. I don't know if Broome County.
does.
So
But
can that
that's-
help us
that-
in the
No,
interim?
we gotta have that conversation
Yeah.
right out in the open, because I do all of Broome County's code inspections. Code, drawing review, and field construction.
Oh,
So I do that through Hubbard Engineering.
You're
So
hired.
I can't do it. So all I'm saying is, the county's an avenue,
But you can't do it.
but
Well,
there's
then
a
you
conflict
recuse
of
to-
interest with a town
what happens
board
when you
member.
ever have a conflict? Do you never have a conflict in anything else? Who do they use if you have a conflict? Do they have someone other than you?
No, because I
Oh.
get rid of my conflict. If
No,
if
I'm
it's,
just asking.
if it's a client of mine,
Yeah, I see what you were saying, right.
but this is a conflict, this would be a conflict of interest to go to the county, and we'd have to have a conversation about, what workarounds are in it, but I don't see that as a viable solution. That's just me sitting here telling, I just don't, I gotta short circuit that conversation.
Oh, so then you guys just fire Gene. And then,
We have no authority to
Good
fire
luck
elected
trying to
official.
fire a-
We
You
don't
know
have
how
no
long we
authority
tried
to fire
a
elected.
town official?
No.
Holy Christ. All right, but no, all you have to do is ask me to resign, and you guys got it. So, but I'm not doing the code, but don't
You're
go
not
through
doing-
the trouble of trying to fire me, just tell me to go.
You're not gonna do ordinance, you were saying.
Yeah.
All right,
Well,
where are we at?
I don't know, I'm totally confused.
Well,
Well, we're good.
it
We
still
made up-
sounds like, though, that there is an opportunity to a third-party vendor, as long as they assign somebody within that
Directly to us.
organization to us.
Yeah, there hasn't, to my knowledge, been a court case challenging the authority of that type of an arrangement. You know, so that's like the workaround. You know, so we're always a little like,
Well, it's an interim step
Right.
to a permanent position for, whatever applicants we get. But right now, waiting 6 weeks or so, maybe longer, to appoint a code enforcement officer doesn't really seem like the responsible thing to do.
One of, to separate out the code enforcement zoning issues and the fire inspections, I don't do any fire inspections for the county. They do them themselves.
Well, the person that we have right now has been doing the fire inspections, so was he
You can't do
doing
them
that? He
anymore.
was doing that under, because we
Yeah.
had the code, okay,
was doing it
just
under-
asking,
yeah.
all right.
so
he
Gene, you're saying
can't
the
do-
county handles its own fire inspections? So I
Yep.
wonder if you could ask the county to fill in and do an IMA with the county to cover that piece for the town.
Then, my question is, what are we gonna do with the person that we have that was working under,
Well, the county might be able to provide the oversight of him.
that's what I wanted to
Yeah.
know, because otherwise, we have someone that can't do anything.
You can't do it.
I've also talked with Keegan, who's currently working with the town of Dickinson, and their code officer, who also does fire inspections there, Kyle something, might have some availability to provide just the fire safety inspections for Shenango. You know, he's doing the southern half of Front Street, he can do the northern half of Front Street.
So then what's,
Well, I think that's a cleaner option than going through the
I
county.
think it is too. That's a lot cleaner option.
but what do we do, so once if we can get them in a mutual agreement, is what you're saying, okay?
Yeah, and then Kyle can
That's,
oversee
then,
this
then
Doug
the
guy.
one that we have now can work under his
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
The supervision.
supervision, thank you. So I'll make some calls tomorrow.
Yeah, call Marinaccio and
Yep, I will. Huh? No, it's not. Yes,
Is it
Hope so.
worth reaching out to the other
I'm
towns
gonna.
and villages
I'm
to
gonna.
see if
It
we,
is, right? Everything's on the table,
Yeah,
right?
I think so.
you know,
You guys are fine, I'll start
Yeah.
making some calls to everyone,
yeah.
yep,
Yep.
seeing who can help us out. in the interim.
it's like, we don't have anybody.
There's a lot out there.
Before was just like a
Worth
conflict
the
or
try.
like
Yep.
Somebody might want,
Well,
somebody might do a part-time. just
well,
to help
I'm
us
gonna
out.
talk to, right up in town of Barker, because we just did a mutual agreement to help them out with their DCO, dog catcher, so I'm trying to think of his name, Dietrich, I think, the code officer is. Maybe he can help out a little bit too.
It's,
Huh?
Yeah.
Dietrich, I think it is.
Yeah,
is it really?
I think it's Dietrich.
I'll look it up, but
I thought that's, I can picture him. I think it's Dietrich. But if,
Oh, yeah,
if you
you'll-
guys
you'll
are
look it
fine,
up.
I'm gonna start making phone calls. If
but call them all.
I'm gonna, okay. I'll get on the horn tomorrow.
That takes care of that. Was there another position that we need to address that he had, that Gavin had? There was the stormwater position, but then the floodplain manager, the floodplain,
Yes.
is that an urgent issue as well? That doesn't come up very often.
Well, there's one solar project that is being proposed to develop in the floodplain. So I don't know what level of review is presently required of that. But you might be able to do an IMA with another town, maybe town of Dickinson or whomever, to cover that specific service, because it doesn't come up as often. So that might be a niche thing that could just be picked up by somebody.
Yeah. So Alex had said the floodplain manager, stormwater program coordinator, SWPPP person.
Well, that's the MS4.
Okay. So I don't know,
Stormwater.
I'm not aware if Gavin was on any other, do you know, either one of you guys know?
Okay.
Safety, oh, he was on the safety committee,
Okay,
okay?
all right, seven
right.
20.
7:20, get moving.
7:20, really?
Yep, we gotta get moving.
Okay.
You used to know what time it was when you sat over here.
I know.
Okay, I knew that
Move
was
that
coming.
clock over there.
I'm gonna, Greg, you have all sorts of
Put it on
authority.
paper. I'll move
Okay.
wherever you want.
Um,
Make me mad.
Future agenda?
future agenda, thank you.
Just trying to move it along.
Yes, that's where I was.
So, first things is, my apologies to you guys for not doing the policy manual, but I don't know if we would've got
You've
to
been a
it
little
today.
busy, yep.
Anyway, but, if, I will present it to you in the next 2 weeks, but let's not put it on the agenda until after you guys get it.
Okay.
And then the intent of it is to list out what the policies are that we've had decisions or, policies on with the supporting documents, and then having Jody compile the actual manual.
Okay.
But an enormous amount of those are already compiled in the safety manual, so that's the other discussion that you wanted to have. So I wanted to remind everybody that, are we gonna put them all in there, or are we just gonna have the town board policy manual? So just, that's as far into the discussion that I wanna get, but that's where we are for that. And I would like to get on a discussion about our agenda prep and the documents on the agenda, or not having discussions about them. These ad hoc conversations have really been frustrating to me. We're talking about conversations and not having documentation, and we made a bad decision a couple of weeks ago because we didn't really have all the information together. And I just don't want to keep repeating that process.
Do you wanna put that on 4:30? What do you?
I think it's a half an hour discussion.
Okay, I'm asking, on
so-
4:30, we have,
4:30 is fine with me.
okay, gentlemen?
Yep.
Fine with me.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so we don't, so for 4:30, we have that, abstract number 9, are we gonna put,
Shall we move that to the fall?
pardon?
May we not move that to the fall?
Work rules?
Yeah. Shall we move it?
Well, what about your other, for your position there?
Oh, yes.
Will you be ready on 4:30
Yes.
for the position of,
If I'm not ready, then I'll ask to move it to a future agenda.
okay?
That's why I can't.
So you guys, you wanna
Yes.
do Greg on the 30th?
Yes.
Or,
Yes.
excuse me, on the 30th?
30th.
Yes.
For the position, for the DPW position?
Yep.
Okay,
I don't know.
Anything else I have is I have the building condition study, RFP.
Yeah.
Do we?
For the
is that already
CRS,
requested?
so
Do you think
that's
you
probably not the floodplain.
I have no issue with presenting it to the board for
I don't
putting
think
it
you
out.
can without the board
Um,
saying you,
And
like, I also don't know what the requirements are.
I know that I didn't respond to you about it, but yours was more in-depth than what I could have given you. So, you changed the municipality type, so that was really the only comment I was gonna have on it. It was a good RFP.
A couple of questions,
Mhm.
just about putting the building information in. We need to do that. I sent it in an email, so if you get a chance, before I send it to the event. That's okay. Other than that,
I can give you my input, but that's a fair question for the whole board.
so,
But,
can I ask that now, or?
no, you can decide, you can put the RFP in for the agenda
Okay.
and send that information, and we can have that conversation with it. I think that works out, because they should have it all. Okay?
anything else on the 30th?
Did Chris Bodek want to talk to us?
Ooh, he sent us a letter, didn't he?
Sent an email
he?
requesting to be on the 4:30 agenda.
Do we have it? Wanna hear what
Where's his information? Where is
Yeah.
all that stuff? He said he put in
I
a
don't know.
request
There was a
for
submission.
zoning.
He submitted it to the planning, or to the code office. So it's somewhere over there.
So if that
Can-
information can get to us,
Can we get that? Yeah, can that be?
Oh, yeah, you can. I'm sure he's just thinking he's given it to the town, so he's probably not thinking he needs to give it again.
Well, I'll have Diane pull it all up and we'll get it forwarded to all you guys and have
And attached to the agenda.
Attached to the
attached to the
agenda.
agenda.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine, I'm good with that on the 30th.
On the 30th?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got that.
So,
Highway. What was the highway?
do we know what his question is?
All the union stuff,
That's-
yes, thanks, Dale.
I mean, all it was is to get on the agenda for what he submitted, but I don't know what, when we're gonna get
Zoning
documents.
change.
Zoning change.
The zoning change.
It's a zoning change, that's what it's about.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And Darren just reminded us about the union, the contract there with the dental and that stuff.
His email says request for a rezone. So,
Okay.
I'm guessing that's what.
And we're gonna slide Darren in there on the 30th? That's pretty full. So we
I'm-
good for the 30th?
Good for the 30th?
Okay. We're gonna move on then. I'm going to, there's gonna be an executive session,
Executive session for matters relating to.
matters related to the
particular town, or, yeah, sure, just say DPW.
DPW,
You gonna let people speak first before we do it, or
pardon?
are you gonna let?
I just wanted to
Oh,
make sure I
okay.
got that right. I am gonna do that. So we're gonna go into executive session for, an issue in the DPW with the investigation. So I'm gonna give the offer to the public, open forum, guests shall speak in orderly fashion and are limited to remarks of 5 minutes or less. The speaker shall deliver their comments or concerns in a civil tone without the use of profanity or personal attacks. The speaker shall not be interrupted except in a matter of urgency. Would anyone like to speak? Go ahead.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Karen McWick. I'm the Director of Construction for United Health Services. I thank you for recognizing the urgency.
Could you use the microphone, please?
Sure.
Sorry.
You can hear me. I think that's a first in my life.
Well, the people may not be able to hear you on the live stream.
It's for the live stream. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good evening, Karen McWick, Director of Construction for United Health Services. I appreciate your attention and recognition of the urgency of filling the code enforcement position, as we have an active project in the Weiss Plaza at 1290 Upper Front Street. So again, I would like to keep, you'll probably see me at the 30th, and I'll keep close contact as to what's going on with this. Again, because of the urgency of the project that is underway. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Ms. McWee, where are you in the process for the code? So just so that I understand where the,
Sure. We just started this month, the end of this month.
with
So we have
construction?
all of our, yes,
Okay,
permit has been pulled by La Chase. They are our CM and lead on the project. They have the trenching open, pipe beds in, sands in. I know that Gavin did an inspection out there and saw the sand in the trench bed and the pipe in place, and we did a pressure test on some of those lines, and I know that was all fine. And Gavin was aware of that. So we're backfilling that trench, and my understanding is his next concern was to ensure that the vapor barrier was in before we started doing our concrete. fill.
concrete, okay. No, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very,
Completion is Thanksgiving, I think, for ease of the schedule for the project. Yes, sir.
no, just thank you for speaking and, stay with us.
I will stay right.
All right, I'm gonna be making a lot of phone calls tomorrow.
Okay, good deal.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. You're welcome to stay. We got other matters, but you're always welcome. Folks, anyone care to speak? Okay.
You don't want me to.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session for DPW and, investigation report.
With two phases, the first not involving or inviting in Greg, and then the second phase
The
inviting
second
Greg.
phase, inviting the department head in.
Second.
All in favor? Mr. Burton, will you hang out, please? Thank you.
long? Nothing
Well, that's
catastrophic.
a problem because nobody really wants to call. They, the one time they called 30 times. 30 times. They
Oh.
couldn't get a hold of me. So they called me. Okay. They tell me what it is and I'm like, I can wait till morning, I guess, not that big of a deal. I knew it wasn't gonna open the bowl, but 30 plus times they called me. And not one guy. This one is gentleman gonna call.
Well, yeah.
Not one of them, even the guy in college answered the phone. They didn't even answer the phone to back up their buddy. They call their buddy, and call their coworker and say, hey, the phone's ringing, you need to go get this done. No, no. I called, I text, I called, I text.
What do you do? The more the state, for example, digs into how, employees have been doing things for decades. Employees that really don't necessarily have a lot of oversight just because it's not the way that works. Town clerk's not a bad example. The more they find out people have been doing things incorrectly for decades. I mean, there's been talk of, in the state about, getting rid of local justice courts because they just make too many mistakes and just relying more on the county, but can the counties handle that burden?
Yeah. Which county can pick up?
25 years ago. I'm not talking years and years, like when Harder first got in, they had horses doing patrol.
Oh, yeah, sure.
They went through Otsanango, they took care of all of that stuff. Yep.
Yeah. Well, they even have a couple
Boat
motorcycles.
patrol, now you can't get somebody, cause they barely get them out of the car, so now they gotta get 40 cars, so. How the heck you gonna get them on a horse?
Stool? Carry a stool around with you.
You know what I mean? But no, that was pretty cool, I saw pictures of that,
Oh, yeah.
pretty neat. It's funny that it's in
Yeah. Nothing like a mounted.
actually state police still right now.
Oh, sure. Probably largely ceremonial, maybe some New York City stuff.
Words of, words.
Yeah. Still awful niche, you know, four-wheelers and stuff.
Yeah, they're getting everything. Snowmobiles, four-wheelers.
Now you got that little buggy that barely fits in on the sidewalks.
That, that was a weight, weight for something that works well to mow and wet hills.
Is that the one that's all belt driven?
Yeah.
That's wild.
But as for snow blowing, it doesn't have a lot of power. It's not because it's snow that we get that heavy wet snow from Front Street to 12A. And I don't think as much of anything is going to be able to blow that. You know, if you get a foot of snow out there, 2 days to go from McGurk's to Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't think that.
No, I'm just saying in general, just in general with that, how much they're on site, it was just like.
Yeah, well, like a Pendry Drive, that'd be a piece of cake, but, no. Anything that's like within 20 feet or more of the street, piece of cake. Then you get the town highway supervisor plows the snow on the sidewalk.
I was,
Out there.
On the intersection. You need to
Anytime,
put it
yeah,
in the middle
until
of the
next
road.
year. We're gonna climb right up on the curbs and push right back on the sidewalk.
Hey, the bank does that, they plow their whole parking lot and dump it right on the sidewalk.
The knuckle head down at that used car lot. And McDonald's, he plowed all that road, snow across the road, right at the intersection of that. Like, what are you doing? I gotta get rid of it. Well, plow it over there, like, I can push it over the bank the other way. Pile it up there. Before it gets out of there.
No, they're there. No, no, excuse me. No, he said they're not.
Fine.
Dave gave them to me, and he goes, give them back to Greg.
Greg gave him the Dave to get in there.
They're there.
do more with less, so put the people together and let's get going, like, figure it out.
I think that's definitely a step in the right direction.
Enough's enough, with let the people decide, you know, okay, here's no, the town, make the decision. You're pleading to the fire company to say, well, we can't do, there's no way, and I agree 100%, I'm not gonna pay another $500,000 yet. That's a, and I understand what they need, and they do a great job, and get all that. But, if you look at other options, look at school districts. Schools sooner or later are gonna have to do this, because it's gonna get to that same point right there. And that's gonna happen, so it's just evident, it's inevitable. All these other, everywhere you go, all these other, everybody starts to do the same. And you go to places, right, and you ask them, hey, how many people you got in your department? They're gonna say 20, 25, 30. They're smaller than us, but they're putting that in there because they combine them. And they can do it,
Consolidation.
you know, and the town needs to really sit back and say, I've said it for 10 years, 12 years, 15 years. Why do we not? Why do we not? We fight every time we gotta, oh, we gotta go work with them. Well, you know what? Now we don't have to. We got a problem? Go do it. We're all doing it. Who cares? Who cares? You take me right out of the goddamn equation. I don't wanna be about it. But I'm doing it for the best interest of everything. And we have a good thing going, and I like this town, and I wanna keep it going. That's the best thing. The best interest of this town. I'm not the decision. That's why I said when they told me about those, about, tell me what you wanna do, I don't care. I'm not gonna fight you, just move on, let's go. I'm open to everything, let's go, what's the best, what's the best? You know what, you have 9 more guys that answer the phone on a call out on the weekend. You'd have 9 more guys do around that.
Well, you consolidate.
You'd have
and you
6
give
more
them
guys that
numbers.
we wouldn't call in to plow snow, so I could get done a lot quicker. You know, we wouldn't be out as long, so you're saving it long.
Yeah, no,
We could do the parking lots, the sidewalks, everything, the buildings, everything would look so much nicer, you know, because you have the manpower. To switch it up and do, like, rainy days, there's a lot that we can help. Nice days, there's a lot that, or nice days, there's a lot they could help, we could help. Rainy days, there's a lot we could help. So, I don't care.
no, I think that's an excellent idea. How do they accomplish that? Or do they pass?
The way the town did it way back when they put it this way, it's probably a hard way to fix it.
Well, that's, you know, let's
They
think
need to
about
start it, and I
government.
don't care about now, but they need to go forward to the next group of people and have it set.
This is not really sustainable. It's a slowly sinking ship.
Very slowly, because I'm in the same boat at some point in the next 3 to 5 years, I'm gonna be in this boat where I'm praying that guys are gonna wanna come work for us. Because with the price of CDLs, getting them, and, okay, when you come here to work, it's okay, the pay is pretty decent. But now you still gotta work till you're freaking 72 with your state retirement. I get that, it's good retirement, don't get me wrong, you're guaranteed. But are you still? Who knows yet?
And now we're really.
Before, we were all locked into that, so it was good. We're all good. But the new group isn't yet, so that's a huge thing too. So we gotta start thinking outside the box.
Creative solutions. That's where we're at.
And like I said, I'm not just preaching here, it's everywhere. I've talked to all this, but this is another reason I got more involved with this stuff, because it's nice to hear this from this is huge. They're seeing the exact same thing that we're seeing now, they've seen it.
Like I
They've
said,
adjusted to it.
Yeah, like I said, it's, you know, people are complaining about nobody wants to come to work. Yeah, that's accurate enough, but the fact is, 100% across the board, these are numbers.
Yep.
You know, this is not an economic thing, or a cultural thing. These are simple numbers.
Right, and nobody wants to do the work until you are getting killed, burned out.
Yeah.
300 hours overtime for my guys, it's crazy, but, you know, wrap the application. Here it is. Here it is. They finally got sick of me and said, all right, we're gonna give them an opportunity. You know what they brought me in for? The summer. I worked 4 months in the summer, and he goes, you want a full-time job? And I said, yeah, it would be great. He goes, okay, you're hired. I'm like, oh, good, thanks. And now here we are. But that's what it was. That's the way I looked at it, was, holy cow. If I want the job that much, yep, yep, yep. Civil service stuff. It's terrible. It handcuffs so many people. And that forces all of these people to go somewhere else, to these private contractors and work for them. Because you don't have to deal with the citizens. You can make more money and you probably work less hours. At the end of the day, you're done. You probably get, most of them get summers off or winters off, one of the two. You know? I would love to have summers off, or winters off. But work all summer long, take winters off, that's great. That's not what I chose, which I'm okay with, but now I see why people, a lot of people are doing it. There's something that's gotta change, and I don't know what that is. To get people interested in public here or anything. Yep, right. Let's make change things. Change is very good. Takes a while for people not to like it, but definitely. Right. Or, hey, it wasn't a good thing, and oh, now we're gonna try to backstep a little bit, and then we do it, or whatever. But no, change 95%, 99% of the time, it's not good. But, right. Hey, sometimes you gotta make the hard decision and make somebody mad or not mad or whatever, and that's the point. And, you know, unfortunately, I mean, yeah. You know what, you gotta do what you gotta do, and you gotta move on, and what, that's the right thing to do, then that's the right thing to do, but, hey, you're not gonna make them all happy. I annoyed a lady today when I talked to her, but I finally got her to understand at the end of the day, when I was done with her, that she understood where I was coming from in the situation. She wasn't happy up front, but then realized where we were at. And that's all it takes with some people. You just gotta explain the whole thing. A lot of these people get so nervous and right up front, be like jumping and all this, and, oh my God, no, relax. Understand what's going down and let's discuss it. Put everything out on the table. The goods, the bads, the evens, whatever, here we go. I don't care. I'm one of the most open, tell me, I want you to tell me what I'm doing wrong. Please. Don't ever tell me when I'm doing something right, cause I care less, cause I know I'm always right. Please tell me when I'm wrong, cause I can't learn. Those are, you know, that's, I've said that to a lot of people, making a better place for the people that I'm trying to deal with, work for, or whatever.
And then it's appropriate path.
Yeah.
You know, if you're screwing stuff up, you're wandering down, you're just getting everybody.
Right, I'm not mad because you don't do something wrong. I'm gonna prove to you either I was right or I'm wrong and I'm gonna change.
Well, you know, that, God forbid, take no criticism, requires no emotional control, that's something else in short supply, especially in this county.
Oh, my God, that's,
And, you know, I mean, we got the country and, former president telling people your feelings matter.
oh, I know.
You know, your feelings matter to the people that you love and that love you, that's it. Outside of that, we just try to deal with the facts, the emotions,
Right.
you know, get in the way. Always because people get anxious when receive criticism or stuff like that, but get over it. You know, and it's not that big of a hump to get over, and then you get on the other side of it, you're in a better place. Not a big deal.
I agree on it. I keep forgetting that was Thornton Hay Farm.
Is Mike on?
No, my mic's not, so you can't hear me, but you can see your hands up moving around.
Yeah.
We're at a break, so I can do whatever I want.
Actually, it might have, forgive me, but,
We are 8:15.
A motion was made by King Holbert at 8:14 to come back into regular session, seconded by Kevin Warden, I believe. Can I get a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Motion adjourned.
All in favor?
Keep me posted on that. Still looking at that. Yeah, we're done with snow. We're done with snow for now.
Will you be able to sign that letter tomorrow?
You want me to do that?
Well, that's the way, that's the way. the
Well, is it
signature
all
was.
finished? It's the way you want it?
Well, yeah, we,
Yes, I will sign